Hi, everyone. Peace, peace, peace. How is everyone doing today? I'm super excited because we have such a interesting topic to talk about, a very in-depth, interesting topic. But welcome back to the throne room. This is where we have powerful matriarchs come together to discuss community problems and come to a conclusion on how we're going to solve these problems. So today we're going to be talking about the concept of Black love. Okay. And I think we all have experience with Black love because we Black. But also just because we have a different perception as we navigate through life, we also take into account the totality or the collective experience, not just our own experience. So I think us having this conversation is more beneficial than it is like trauma bonding. So we're not going to sit here and just talk about, oh, well, he did this to me, he did that to you. Oh, it's not that. It's more of a what can we do to get to a space of well-being and healing so that we can move forward, so that we can have children and not mess up our next generation. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's a healing conversation, and I'm so glad that you guys are here to help me have this conversation. So just really quickly, go ahead and introduce yourselves again for those of us who aren't aware of you and who have missed our last episode. So we can start.
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniela Virgo, and I am Daniela Virgo on all platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And on my platform, I help guide women and give my suggestion on how to improve themselves and their relationship with themselves and to transcend themselves into all aspects of their power. And I also have a Patreon for that where I'll go in deeper depth, and on TikTok and on YouTube called the Shadow Goddess Journey. So yes, that's me.
Love that. Love that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nikki Buchanan. I am Soul Things BK on most platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. I also have a Substack where I do in-depth writing. I have a podcast called How to Be Magical, where I talk with different practitioners throughout the diaspora from different practices and just talk about their journeys. And ultimately, I just like to offer information to the community about different spiritual paths within the diaspora, so that way everybody can get to their highest good. And lately, I have been writing more in-depth pieces on my Substack, but I have starting next week, I have like a slew of interviews for the next crop of episodes for How to Be Magical podcast, and that's on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
I love that. Very, very powerful. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Okay, so the first question.
I'm already stressed. I'm kidding.
No.
No.
What is our ideal image of love? The ideal Black love. What does that look like, and how did we get that idea in our head? So if you guys want to start, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I did do a reel where I kind of put together a couple of Black love relationships from the 90s, from media. So you have Will and Lisa, you have, Martin and Gina, all the people, loving basketball, all that. So that's some of the things that I got my idea of love from, like, oh, how cute. But you guys can go into, what the ideal Black love looks like, and how did you get that idea in your mind?
All right.
Everybody can start.
Right. All right. So I think that for me personally, growing up, I don't feel that Black love was something that I truly witnessed, in a sense of like, especially in media, like as a dark-skinned Black woman, I didn't see dark-skinned Black women being loved on, right? Like we were not the love interest in a bulk of things, right? We were the funny friend, the mean friend, the fat friend. Like it was like like a joke almost. And I didn't see it. And like even from my own personal experience, like with my parents, who I felt like they had a good friendship with each other, I wouldn't say that they had a loving relationship. Like it wasn't a romantic relationship. They were co-parents before that was a thing, right? And they were always in respective relationships with other people. And I didn't idolize any of the people, anybody. Like none, like my father, I was like, I don't want a man like that. And my mother, I was like, I don't want to be like that, right? So it was like very much like, I'm going to do the things to not be like these people, right? So I feel like my initial thoughts about it were like, I have to be opposite of what I'm seeing, which is a little weird to kind of like navigate when you're a young person, because you're like, well, I need to see something to emulate something. But I think even just having a strong, like, I don't want that. That was enough for me to be like, I don't want that. That's enough for me to not, I don't want to repeat the same cycles. And I feel like it built from there. And that it was a lot of mistakes that was made along the way, obviously. But I definitely have always been very critical of romance and the way that it's been packaged and like pushed towards people that look like me. And realizing that some, have not always been part of that storyline. And just like, it took a lot of unpacking to be like, I don't feel bitter about it or anything. I just be honest about like, this is what is being shown. I don't necessarily see myself reflected in that. Does that mean I'm not worthy of love? Of course not, but like, it was a hard thing for me to come to terms with when I was like coming of age, right? The time when you were like 13, 14 and you like boys like everybody else, or like whoever you like, like you're going through that process and realizing like, oh, I don't really have a lot to look at right now. So I did always, I'm a Libra. I love love, right? So like I love love in the like theory kind of way of like, I believe one should be loving and all of that stuff. But it could be weird to like live in certain situations and be like, there ain't no love here, But then grow up on like soul music and like the old school R&B and like all of that. So it's like the feelings are there, but then it's kind of, I've always felt like there was a bit of a disconnect between some of the stuff that I was feeling on the inside and the things that I was being shown and the things that I was seeing in my day to day.
Yeah, that's one thing I did notice when it came to skin color, complexion. I think even as I rewatch a lot of old 90s stuff, I'm more aware of how they can change an actress and then change her from someone who is dark skinned, who's smart, and actually has a lot of complexity to the character, and then change it to someone who's super light skinned and less vocal and less lines. Like she has less of a character, My Wife and Kids, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like you know what I mean? The whole dichotomy between Martin with Gina being the main face of desirability versus Pam, and I think as adults we can look back and be like, wow, Pam was bad, but we didn't know that like young. You know what I mean? So it's a lot. I think the only time there was a real dark skinned love interest was Family Matters, where it was Laura. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do love that show for that reason, but I think that's like the only show, especially with the parents, even her parents being, both dark skinned people. And I'm just like, wow, that's beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? And she was smart and everything, And even I do also remember having an issue with complexity of course, like in Boys in School. And then there's boys, the popular boys going around with a paper bag, like, are you lighter than a paper bag? And put it up to my face. And I'm just like, oh, you don't fit. And they just moving on. I'm just like, oh, that was so embarrassing.
Oh my gosh.
That was so crazy and embarrassing for me. Okay. And when I tell people this, they be like, wow, you're not even old enough to but I did. It happened. You know what I mean? So yeah, very, very different. So I think my way of coping through life, not being the chosen, like, or the most popular desired girl in school, was my intellectualism, being smart,
Yep.
making my parents proud, like things like that. So I think a lot of times our abilities kind of outshine, our physical appearance. But also, I think in general, there's a whole self-love journey that happens like throughout your life, and realizing I probably decentered men when I was younger for a long time without even realizing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like with the best examples of love, I would say, is like my aunts and uncles. Like my aunts and uncles have, um, Uncle David, Uncle Craig, Uncle Chan, like all those, they all have marriages that lasted from when I was a child all the way up until now. It's still going. Like, you know what I mean? So that to me is what I see real love. My particular parents, not so much. I saw a little bit of the struggle in that one. But, it's like, I think in general, my experiences seemed more so inevitable as far as the generation that I kind of grew up in and how men treat women, what's societally expected, also what I allowed or how I learned to show a person to treat me as well. So, there's a lot that happens. But yeah, I'm going off. I don't want to keep going. I'm going off. I'm talking too much. Daniela, darling.
No such thing. No such thing. It was good. Well, I have the opposite experience. I grew up very religious, so in a very religious patriarchal home. So for me, it was the opposite. My parents was that couple that were together. For me as a child, it was normal for people to be together, right? So imagine my surprise when I get out into the world. And it's the complete opposite. And it takes a while for it to register. But luckily for me, I also decenter men very early, because I've always been an intuitive person. Even as a child, I was very connected to my own internal dialogue and my own, what I saw is what I saw, even though what they're telling me is something different. So like for me, my parents, my dad, a decent dad, of course. There's always things that traumatize you and stuff like that. But my version, that was, my version of Black love. Now, as an adult, there are a lot of things, even my dad, I would not be with a man like that. And I have a relatively decent dad. Like my dad, get off of work, chase after us. As an adult, you're like, damn, I don't feel like doing that. As a, chaperone in first grade classes, picking me up when I'm sick and stuff like that. But it was still that very much a gender role house. Like I always wanted to play basketball, be outside, cut grass. When I got to a certain age, my dad sent me in the house. My mom called me in the house. You gonna cook, you gonna clean, wife school.
Yeah, basically.
So, and my brothers changing tires, washing cars, mowing, that's how I grew up. I learned very quickly that was not the norm when I got of age, because there's still same thing. And I wrote down my notes. I mentioned 90s movies too. All the 90s movies, I saw them. I was a big movie buff, big TV watcher. Like for me, I was always in my own world person. So for me, the movies were just that. It was a movie. I didn't think it was real. I thought the majority of people lived like I live. Now, the majority, I have a very large family. So the majority of my family parents aren't together, right? So it's funny how you see things, but because my parents were the ones that were together, it framed a certain outlook for me. But I quickly grew out of that. Luckily for me, I also clocked who boys were. I clocked very early their intentions and things like that. So to, put it properly, in like middle school, like I clocked who they were. They want something from you. So I'm like, okay, well, what I'm seeing is not really what my parents have, and even with that as an adult, I don't even that I would not want. It would not be acceptable for me. But it framed my mind in a certain way of what love looked like. And that like quickly changed, especially as I got into my 20s and started actually dating. I held my V card. V card until 27.
Oh, wow.
And it was not because I was religious. It was not because because again, religion for me, even as like at 3 or 4, I remember being cognizant of being like, I don't like this, this don't really make sense. What my parents indoctrinating me, this don't really make sense. This is weird. Like it does, so, but because I clocked boys, right? I clocked that they wanted something from me. They didn't care about what I wanted. They didn't care about my needs. They had tunnel vision. I had something that they wanted, and they were going to do and say anything they could to get it. That is why I was able to stay like that until 27, until I was finally just like, okay, at this point it's a thing, and I'm annoyed with it being a thing.
Right. So, yeah.
But it was very easy. I went through college. I went through almost all my 20s. If I was 27, it was very easy because I saw who they were, regardless of what I experienced in my household. 2 loving parents, never heard them to this day, and I'm 37, argue, raise their voice. Like, I still knew what I saw. It didn't matter what I experienced. I knew what I saw. I knew what I was experiencing when I was in college and when I was in my 20s and dating, and just like how, because I clocked that as a child in like middle school, when your booty start growing and your waist starts cinching and all of that, and always hormone, it saved me a lot of trouble. So it was very interesting having had in it like a different kind of upbringing where men were being conditioned to think men were leaders and men were supposed to be these patriarchal, like, and much as my dad is a patriarch, like I believe there are men who are patriarchs. I'm a matriarch, right? So we gonna butt heads. And his mom, my grandmother, was a matriarch, like very stern, very, and so it's a lot to navigate. And I'll leave it at that. I'll leave the rest for later.
I think it's very interesting that you had a traditional home and you came from that, and then your experience was what it was. I think that's very, very interesting to have to navigate through. Like, what would you say was the turning point for you to open up to men in general after you noticed how they were and how they always wanted something from you and things like that? Like, what would you say was the turning point?
I was physically attracted to them. So my solution was, well, I don't even like them as people. So it was very easy to not like, I was very objective about it. So my views on it was very objective. So it was like, if I find one, great, right? I'm gonna ask the right questions. I'm gonna go with what I feel. If I don't feel like you're the right one, I'm just gonna move on. I don't feel anything for you anyway. If it happened, great. If it don't, great. Like, I see you anyway. So it's like, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. But as far as a specific turning point, I mean, for me, I don't think I can say there was a specific time where there was a turning point. I think it just got to a point where I finally found somebody that I liked enough to entertain, but I always, have a foot out the door. I'm always ready to go.
That is so in contrast to me because like let's say I think the difference between what we're shown on media versus real life, right? It's not like I didn't think that it was just fake. I thought that was real, but I thought it was real for certain women. That's what I thought. I thought it was real for a certain type of girl. And so therefore for me, I just felt like I had to do what it takes to obtain that, if that makes sense. And I think that's where we go into like the auditioning for the ring, or trying to be ride or die and things like that, or trying to be what I felt guys wanted based off of who I see them choosing. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, okay, well, what do they like about this one? What do they like about that one? And I kind of was just like, okay, you know, I know that I want to have a nice, happy, loving relationship, things like that. So, oh, this is somebody that I like. What does he like? So I became like a studier. I have like this Virgo mind. So I started like trying to analyze, okay, well, let me see, based off the girls that he likes, what do he like about this girl? And because he dated a lot of girls, it was very easy for me to conduct my experiments. I was just like, oh, okay, let me see some similarities, let me see some differences, da 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 da, or whatever. But I think the one thing that I did learn over the time in general of dating men in general was just like, okay, men are selfish and they want sex. At the end of the day, that's what they want. Because I've definitely had a couple people who left because they didn't get the punani. Okay, so it was just, that was heartbreaking. You know, as a young girl, I think too, it was something happening in not just movies but also music. Like, you know how back in the day, I was just talking about this earlier, about how during our time we had a lot of child musician stars like Bow Wow, Little Romeo. Okay, like they always like kids into teenagers, like early teenagers. Like now I don't think they have it the same way, but back then it was like, you know, puppy love that they used to sing about and rap about. Like, you know what I mean? So I think as a young girl in middle school trying to have my little boo, I realized that I was under this illusion of what that is supposed to be like, and realizing that, oh, this is not real. This boy is only paying attention to me because he thinks he's gonna get some, and when I don't give it to him, he's gonna disappear. And that happened consistently. So I think in general, the difference or the contrast between what we're fed versus what reality is was like jarring. Like, you know what I mean? It was very, very jarring, and we had to learn to like navigate that. And I think one of the things that I took on was trying to become the perfect wife. I think all of that, as the femininity coaches now, the ones who help women become better wives, teach them how to cook, teach them how to talk, how to, you know, be classy, all the things that women are still doing today, I kind of took upon myself to try and do at a young age. You know what I mean? Of trying to, I know how to cook, I know how to clean, let me service, let me be submissive. Like I went through the whole thing, okay? Like I did the ride or die. I used my finances for those who ain't have no money. Like I did the whole thing. And even that wasn't, you know, it didn't result in the ring that I thought that would. You know,
they're liars. They're liars. Listen, I held my V card until 27. They don't like that. If they tell you they like that, you can't say that word. I got clocked on TikTok. If they tell you that they like women who are untouched, they are liars. Trust me, from firsthand experience.
Yeah, but then on the same token, listen, I'm gonna speak on the opposite spectrum. The same token, you too experienced, they feel some type of way about that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I definitely had this conversation with a few ex-boyfriends, and they would like, you know, I think for me, it was I had an interesting experience because for some reason people think that when you look a certain way that you're not doing certain things, right? So I was able to fly under the radar for a long time. I went to school in a different neighborhood. I went to school in a whole different borough than where I lived. So I had a lot of separation. So having a lot of separation meant I could truly have a double life. Like I never had a boyfriend all 12 years of high school, right? From school, right? Like nobody never liked me. Nobody never said they liked me. No, like, and years later, like as adults, people were like, oh, a lot of people liked you, but you were smart and you were dark skinned, and dark skinned girls weren't in fashion. So literally, like they will literally tell you, like, oh no, I was like, who are you talking about? People started naming names. I was like, really? I had no idea. They were like, no. You were liked. It was just that everybody wanted the Puerto Rican girls, everybody wanted light skinned girls. Nobody wanted a dark skinned girlfriend. That was not in fashion. So I was able to evade certain conversations. So people just automatically assumed that because I wear glasses and I was bookish and nerdy that I wasn't doing anything. Okay.
Okay.
And
I'm not upset. I love that for you. Okay.
Right? I had a time of my life in high school, right? But
period.
With local people in Brooklyn, like where I lived, right? So then I remember years ago, an ex-boyfriend of mine said something about hoes or something like that. And I had to tell him, I said, let me tell you something. I said, a hoe is just a word that a man's gonna call you when you're not fitting.
Regardless.
I said, whether you're doing something or not doing something, someone's gonna put that label on you. I said, because if you really think about it, hoeing is just about proximity, right? Because if I sleep with two people, right? If I sleep with two people and they don't know each other and they're on opposite ends of town, nobody knows. But if I sleep with two people and they friends, I'm a hoe. All right. So let's just calm it down. All right. Let's calm it down because it's not. I'm like, that's you trying to, in your mind, say whether, determine how much respect you're going to give a woman based off of what you consider her sexual history to be, how you feel that she looks, how you feel her attractiveness is in relation to if other people find her attractive, right? Because that's also has been an issue of people being like I've been out with guys and I hear people say derogatory things about me, like, oh, like it's weird. It's a very odd, like I said, when you fall outside of what people deem to be attractive, I don't know why people think you deaf. Like I'm not. I can hear what you're saying about. I'm standing right here. I can hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
They just don't care. They just don't care. It's like you're a non-existent person.
Yes, and they feel like, well, you don't look like this, so you're not worthy of respect. You're not worthy of consideration. You're not worthy, which is very, like I said, it's a mind fuck. Excuse my French, because it's like you're very cognizant that like these people are perceiving me like this because this is what society has told them is unattractive. They said that I'm a person that's unattractive, therefore I am worthy of disrespect, which I haven't internalized that. I don't feel like I'm worthy of disrespect, but I have to think about this is the way people are coming towards me. So even in the way that romance is being offered to me, right? Sometimes it's being dangled like a carrot in front of me, like romance, right? Nobody, like even a man will be on the street, like, when's the last time somebody told you that she was beautiful? And I have to be like, every day.
Like, why would you assume? Why would you assume that?
Exactly, but it's literally like the conditioning, and then it goes in the opposite direction of women who are the preference in the quotes, because again, you're always going to be somebody's preference, but who the society deems as the preference, they don't treat them good either, right?
That's how stupid people are. That's how stupid people are.
They're treating her horribly. They're objectifying her. They don't think that she has intelligent thoughts. They don't think that she has any interests outside of the way that she looks, and it's dehumanizing on both both ends. Which, like what you said, Danielle, it makes you not want to take men seriously at all, because it's like I cannot trust your opinion about anything. Like you should.
The goalposts always move.
Like you should treat me with respect, whether you're attracted to me or not. That should be a baseline that I'm treated with respect. Whether or not you have access to sleep with me should not be the determination of how you're going to respect me. That's crazy, And I feel like when I think about what is love, and what is ideal for me, I feel like I need to feel cherished. I don't just need to feel desired. I need to feel respected and cherished, right? And that's not something that a lot of I've had it, of course, and men of yesteryear or whatever, but in terms of like a unilateral experience, that has not been right. And it's been very easy for me to compartmentalize certain things, which again, men do not like to be made. They don't like to feel objectified either, right? So like, if I get up and I'm like, okay, so what you about to do? And they're like, wait, what? I thought you. I'm like, so.
They get so offended. They get so offended. How dare you not care? So, which brings up a funny point. So when I finally did, lose my V card, right? Mind you, I'm 27 years old. I'm not 17. Dude is like, he kind of felt some type of way that I wasn't like all over him, that I wasn't obsessed. I said, sir, I am 27.
I am grown.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. At this point, I use you.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so this wouldn't be a thing. Like, they get so offended when they don't, but that's how like simple people are. They get so offended that you like, why would you think that is real? Like, I'm supposed to be obsessed with you because and most people didn't believe me anyway. This is why a couple of years ago I made a video that went a little viral. I was lie about your body count, because it don't matter. It don't matter whether you have 0 or 30.
It really
Right.
Don't matter. They not gonna you know how many most people didn't believe me until it got to a point where they was like, oh, she's serious. And then it's like, oh, that's so good. Don't call me. Okay. I'm here for don't call me. Call me never.
I think in general, a lot of men, their conditioning was, if you have a girl who has her V card still, that's like you marking your territory before any other man. So she is going to be obsessed with you. And when he didn't get that, it was shocking to him. Like, you know what I mean? And I live for those moments, and their reality gets warped. Like, oh wow, I can't believe this. Like, she doesn't fit the idea of who I thought she was. She's not fitting in that blueprint. Ah. Oh my goodness, I love that. So I want to move on to the experiences that we have had, right? So one of the things I have here is struggle love, right? So even if we haven't experienced the ideal Black love, one thing that a lot of Black women has to experience is the settling for less, just so that we can have a Black man. Like, you know what I mean? The ride or die, the, just help him, help build him up. So, stop expecting a man to be perfect. Stop looking at his pocket, love him for himself. All of that, all of the rhetoric that we still, go back and forth with today. Like, what has your experience been with that?
We've all experienced struggle love. If you listen.
I know for a fact, like, I think in general, like, when we look at other cultures, like, there is such a thing as dowry. There is such a thing as actually going to the parents and asking for permission for a person's hand in marriage. Like, I think all of that cultural stuff, we don't have that. I think the way that we navigate in America is more so of an individual journey. Like, you know what I mean? We have individual journeys of whether we're going to find love and then get married. So in general, when you walk into relationships, sorry, it's so loud. when you walk into relationships, and it's kind of like, now if we have the standard of, well, I want to make sure that you're financially stable. I want to make sure that you can actually be a provider for a family if we were to have one. If you come in with that mindset, is looked down upon, whereas before, I know for a fact, for me, I used to go into relationships solely off of characteristics. Did you make me laugh? Simple stuff like, did you make me laugh? Oh, okay, cool. I like you. So I've realized that going into relationships for that led me into struggle love, because I was looking only at the characteristics. I was looking only at your heart and who you are and what your spirit felt like in general. So it's just like, I think in general, I dated for potential of what he could become. Oh, my love can heal him. I can help him become his best and most highest potential self. And when I realized that a lot of them can reject your love, reject all your help, reject all your wisdom, and still fight to be the same way, even if they have the potential to be something great, even if they have intelligence, even if they have talents, they will still fight to be the same way and not want to grow, no matter if they have a good woman on their arms to help them. Because they're in a society where they don't have to grow. They're going to get a woman regardless. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to get a woman regardless. So that was something that I had to learn after being the breadwinner for like all of my men up until the one I got now. I was a sugar mom.
Yeah. So I don't think it might freeze in a little bit. I would definitely call definitely say I had a struggle of experience, but I never really, this might be a little toxic, but I never really let anyone get too close to me. Like I've never lived where I've entangled my life with another person, like signing leases and doing all that kind of stuff, right? So
that was smart.
It's always easy to just, get up and go. Now, I paid a phone bill. I've loaned money. I've done those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never let it get but so far. Because that was not what I was used to, right? Both of my parents were, of course, my dad made majority of the money. That did create a certain standard for me. And although I've dated less than that standard, I was very adamant with not. I'm all about experiences, right? So I'm like gonna enjoy. I know how to enjoy something without tethering myself to it emotionally to where I can't reel myself in. So for me, it was a little bit, rather somebody give me money than me have to, give you money. But it wasn't, I learned quickly, and it just got to a point for me where I was like, okay, I'm not giving you another dollar. I don't care what the circumstances are.
Mm-hmm.
So now, through a lot of work and years later, I feel like I understand. I'm at a consciousness level where I see things in different layers and, from people's, perspective, sort of. So I understand that I cannot expect men in this world to be able to fund my lifestyle, right? That's not realistic, and it physically costs men. That being said, we are in a patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So I will not participate in things like procreating and bringing children here and all with the circumstances of this world. I personally wouldn't do it. So for me, it's more so I'll enjoy an experience. Of course, I'm very picky about who that would be, but I'm not going to struggle but so much. I know where the door is. So I just don't expect certain things. If I get it, great, but I have better things to do than to search for it. I have a fulfilled life. My thoughts alone keep me busy and drained. I'm good without it. Also, I don't think that expecting one person to be your everything is not really it. If I would choose a lifestyle, it would probably be polyamory, because I would rather have multiple people for different things. This world is not conducive for that with, what I have planned, what I want to do, with my goals. It's not really conducive for me to act out on that. It wouldn't be very beneficial for what my goals are to do that. But knowing what I know, I can't expect a man to pay all my bills. But I'm not going to be with you in a patriarchy pumping out my babies. And then you expect me to give them your last name, which I'm not going to do. So that's going to be a whole problem. And I just don't think one person, it's a lot to put on somebody in this space and time, in this world, to try to do everything for themselves and me too. So that's just according to my journey. Everybody is free to do what they want. I don't expect or want people to move in the way that I move, but I'm not going to struggle in love. And that's the bottom line. So I will be by myself, happy, loving life, traveling the world by myself before I struggle with anybody. I have empathy, but I don't care. Because with this wage gap, we ain't splitting bills. That's what we not doing, right? You get paid me for existing and being born male, and I'm a Black woman too. So we get paid even less. Without those men and children, we are on par with every other woman. That's where I am. So I just don't participate in things that's not going to benefit me. That's all.
That's a very progressive way of approaching it.
There's a few things I agree with, but there's a few things that for myself personally, I realize like it's not to I've always been, I don't have a type, right? Like I've never, like if you line up all of my exes, it was like United Colors of Benetton, like it's a little bit of everything. Physically, I've always said that, like if you're attractive to me, you're attractive. But it was always like what you were saying, Nakasha, about the character, and about a person's character, but it was also about like the shared values. And I realized very quickly that I had to be discriminating about the types of men that I wanted to, you know, date or be involved with or whatever beyond just like something physical, because the concept of jealousy will come up, and not jealousy in a traditional sense of like, oh, other people, but like, oh, you come from a loving family, right? A lot of men, you know, they make jokes or whatever about women with daddy issues, but there are a lot of men that are walking around with abandonment issues from their own family situations. Issues, you know, dad left, he didn't come back. Mom was emotionally absent. You don't know your extended family, right? So I had been in relationships with people before where they would be like, well, you spend so much time with your family, or you're always on the phone with your mom, or, you know, your dad calls and you just drop everything and answer. And it's just like, I'm a family-oriented person, right? So if I want to have children, and I still do want children, I don't know, it's just like crazy thoughts, right? I still want to have a family and everything like that. The person who I make a family with has to have something similar that they're coming to the table with. Otherwise, they're not going to understand my motivations for certain things. And I've seen it firsthand with other friends and family members where, you know, the man will be jealous of the fact that this woman has a whole family of support and a whole village, when it's like, you want her to have that because you can't provide everything. Like we just said, you may be able to provide financially and even some emotion and even some, but her family is going to be who comes in and does a lot of things to support, and you're going to need that. And why would you want to isolate her from that? Why would you want to like isolate your children from that? And that, like leading with that and like asking, like certain, you know, men, sometimes they get very defensive when you ask, like, are you family oriented? They thinking that means you want to start a family with them right away. It's like, it's not even about if I want to have kids with you. If we go to a family function, are you going to know how to behave yourself?
Right.
At this family function, you know, are you going to feel some type of way because one of the elders said something to you? Because you don't have elders in your family, and you don't have a relationship with your cousins, and you don't have a relationship with your mom. You don't know your dad, and like all of those things are currency. Right? All of those things mean something. That means that I came to the table with something. So you worrying about whether I know how to cook or not. All right, fine. I'm an adult. Of course I know how to cook, you know, but I come from a big family on both sides. My mom has a lot of, you know, I grew up with my mom's whole extended family, as well as my father and his whole crazy extended family here and in Jamaica. So I grew up going to Jamaica for summers and holidays. I know all of the extended cousins and then now I have a religious family. That's a whole nother group of people that I'm, you know, two sets of godparents. I'm a very family-oriented person, and it's very easy for me to just fall right in. If you come from a big family, I know exactly how to fall in line. I come right in. I know I go in the kitchen. I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm helping this one. I'm doing that. Like, that is my happy place. And if I want to have a family with someone, I want them to understand that that is what I like. I like a family dynamic. It's not just going to be me and you. Now, am I going to tell all my family all of our business? Of course not. Like, I have boundaries. I'm not enmeshed with my family like that. But you're not going to treat me no type of way. Like, I don't come from nobody and I don't come from nowhere, because someone will press you. If there's a problem, somebody will pull you aside at the function and be like, hey, brother, I heard something was going on. But like, because that's how our family was like that growing up. My mom has plenty of stories about cousin so-and-so showing up to some Thanksgiving with somebody that wasn't his wife, and everybody being like, absolutely not. Like, we not,
right.
You know, like, not here, you're not doing it, right? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, and everyone and even my cousin, when he before he got married to his wife, she came when our grandmother passed, and you know, we have to clean out the whole apartment and do the whole thing. And this is when they was just dating. She was just his girlfriend. She came, she had her little overalls on and her little scarf, and she was packing boxes and moving furniture and everything. And at the end of the night, we all got on him. We said, listen, if you do anything to this girl, we're gonna kill you, you know? You better, this girl, she's it. All right. We love her. All right. You better treat her good. And it's like, again, people respond differently to that. Some people, like I said, I've been friends with people who their partner has been insanely jealous of the fact that they have a family, and it's like that is not that's such a odd place to be. But then you realize that person doesn't have something, so they're not going to understand why, and unless they go through their own internal process and go do the work to heal those parts and understand, like, maybe I didn't have that, but I want that, like that. I think that's something that's like we're talking about, society is not allowing men to be full in that way, and it's kind of hard when you meet a grown man and you try to explain to him that you're family oriented. It does not mean I want to have a baby tomorrow. That doesn't mean not tonight. That's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of things that go into being family, and do you know how to be family with people, right? So would you know how to be family with me? Would you know if my father called and needed help, would you be willing to help? Or is it, oh, that ain't my dad, he ain't, and it's like, again, you cannot teach people that. You just got to observe and just see if they got the capacity, if they're willing or not. And then a lot, like I said, I've had, it's the same goes for my spiritual and my religious beliefs. Those are not up for discussion, right? So it's not a debate. It's not it's not a debate. I'm not here to debate my beliefs. And I definitely have had men be like, oh, well, trying to give me some literature about some others. Like, sir, you're not converting me to nothing. I'm not proselytizing to you, and I'm not trying to convert you to nothing. This is just
them damn Hebrew Israelites, won it? It was them damn Hebrew Israelites again, won it?
Some Rosicrucian knights in the text. If you get the out of here, what the hell I got to do with me? That got nothing to do with me, sir. And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, you're weird." I'm like, "I'm weird. You talking about some Rosicrucian knights? Like, what the hell is that?"
You handing out pamphlets, sir.
I have some literature. I said, if you don't get that paper,
literature,
get away from me. Okay, get away from me.
Oh my goodness.
But again, that's why it's like, again, listen, I have been very analytical in the way that I look at how relationships are formed, realizing, I read this book a long time ago. And it was like in defense of arranged marriage, right? And it was like, they talked to all of these couples who have been in arranged marriages from cultures that were like, the parents and the whole thing. And I've always thought it was so fascinating. But they all said the same thing, that the reason why their marriage lasted so long was because they had shared values. They were like, this person was raised, we were raised the same exact way. I did not know this man, his intimate likes and dislikes, all that, his personality, all that. I came to love that. But the fact that he and I were raised the same way, we had that common ground, we were able to build from there. I feel like a lot of the issues that I've had in previous relationships, or that I've seen people have, is the difference in shared values. One person don't value education. One person doesn't value family. One person is not good with money. One person doesn't want kids. Like, some stuff is like, you're not going to level off on it. You can't be together, and it's okay. And people get very emotional. And I feel like, American exceptionalism and American individualism and movies will be like, you have to fight against all the odds. And it's like, that's too much stress. Honestly, I don't want to fight. That's always been my issue. I'll leave a man in a minute. I'm a leaver. I'll leave. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, you're not treating me good. I'm leaving. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm leaving. Like, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to smash your tires. I'm not going to curse you. I ain't going to do none of that. I will block you, and then I will walk past you in the street.
None of that.
I never met that man. Did you call him? Who's that? I don't even know who that is. Because
they be fighting the chest when you're not in your feelings too.
Listen, I'm sorry. I don't got everything in the book. I'm cold-hearted. And guess what? I will be all of those things.
Same.
Okay? I will be every last thing. You can call me every name in the book. I lived with a man one time in my entire adult life. I'm gonna be 40 this year. I lived with a man one time at 19. That man threatened my life. Okay, that man said he was gonna beat me in the head with a shovel and bury me in the backyard. I packed all of my little things in a bag, and I went and gone in the wind.
And why don't I wish you
straight? I was like, I ain't living with nobody. Actually, I always make sure I had enough money to have my own place. And no, you can't live here with me. So no. And that's
no, you can't live here with me.
No, you cannot live here with me. I don't like a man coming over too much. Don't get comfortable, because I don't want to give you the wrong impression. And I feel like, especially when you live in a place like New York, and then before I be quiet for a second, when you live in a place like New York, I find that finances dictate the way that people move in their relationships, because New York is a hard place to live, right? New York is very expensive. And I feel like that's always something that's been in the back of my mind. of like, I don't want to date out of necessity. I don't want to be with somebody out of necessity because I need them to pay the rent. I need to this and the third. Like my grandmother drilled it into my head, like God bless the mother, God bless the father, God bless the child that has her own. Like that was like drilled in my head since I was like old enough to think. She was been always saying, and it used to piss me off when I was younger. It used to really, really upset me. And then as I got older, I realized I knew why she was saying it, because it was like, do not hinge your success and your security and your stability to a man, even if it's your husband, because your husband could die. Like my grandfather died. He was considered very young when he died, but you know, like, but everybody was always like, oh, he was such a great man. He was this, he was that. But I was like, him and my grandmother, they did not have a lot of time together, truly. You know, he didn't see any of his grandchildren being born. And it's like my grandmother had to carry on. And there were a lot of women who, if they didn't have that same kind of mindset to be like, I need to make sure I'm set. I need to make sure I'm okay. I'm anything can happen to my husband. A lot of people don't have that. They be like, well, I have a husband, I got a man, and I don't have nothing to worry about. It's like, girl, that's crazy. You know, like that to me, I understand why some women want that. I get it. I totally get it, because life is hard. And listen, the bills don't stop, and the groceries are expensive, and the rent is too damn high. However, when you're talking about your romance and on your stability, I feel like it's very dangerous to tie those two things together, because anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything. And then children just add more things, you know, complications. Children are expensive. And it's not just something that I think that you should just take lightly, to be like, well, I'm pregnant, might as well. You know, that's crazy to me. And I see so many people who make their lives unnecessarily hard and then like traumatize the children, you know, be like, oh, my kids are fine. It's like your kid, you know, your kids deserve the very best. You know, they deserve your good attention. They deserve you healthy and emotionally stable. They deserve a stable home. Like they deserve that. It all starts with you and this person meeting on even ground and like really seeing eye to eye. And if you can't see eye to eye, that's okay. You do not need to force it. I feel like something is forcing people to be like, I just have to have a man. It's like, girl, relax. No, you don't. You don't. No, you don't. It's okay.
Get a hobby.
Go to school. Get a trade.
Do something.
Do something.
Men are too easy for you to get.
A man is not a hobby, and men are not hobbies.
No.
You know? I stopped being friends with women who thought men was hobbies. You know, like they're not good friends. Like
no, I think a lot of it has to do with conditioning. Everything that you said boils down to societal conditioning, right? So women centering men over their own identity, that's based in, you know, our ideology of how life is supposed to be in general. And I think Anthony said it in the comments. He said Disney movies also feed women an illusion of love. So I think if we look at all the Disney movies, right? And I was a person who had a lot of VHS tapes. I had the ones with the plastic and everything. Okay, I love me some Disney. Okay, so notice out of all the Disney stories, the happy ending was always her finding a prince charming to save her. You know, even when it came to Tiana at the end, she had to fight to, you know, be human again. First of all, like that's the one, you know. I think the one I like the most, or the ones that I feel most in common with is Mulan.
I was just about to say, I love Mulan.
Mulan, yes, Mulan, because her entire story wasn't about getting a husband, like, you know what I mean. And also Brave with Merida, because her entire situation was, I have these interests. I don't want a man, like, you know what I mean. I can do better than all of the men that you guys are presenting me with. What is their purpose? Like, you know what I mean? In her movie, she proved that men are emotional, they're chaotic, they have no direction, they have no vision, and they just are, not to say the word, but stupid. Like, you know what I mean? So like when it came down to Merida's story, it was really about her finding herself and also learning to love her mother. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a mother-daughter story rather than, oh, I'm trying to find a Prince Charming to give me my self-worth or give me my identity. But all the other ones, Snow White, dead until she, you know, get kissed by Prince Charming, Sleeping Beauty, like Belle, you know, Taming the Beast. I ain't gonna lie to you, I did internalize the whole Belle taming the beast thing. I think I did do that a little bit. But I feel like the women that we have grown up to be, many of us have different experiences, but a lot of us have the same experiences as well. So
Yep.
some of us internalize, the ideal vision of love. Many of us got out of that spell very, very quickly. But it shaped how we approach and date. And I think one of the things that causes finding an equally yoked partner difficult is the fact that we do not have a structured society where there is a set amount of principles that everyone is by. This is not Nigeria. This is not, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is America, where there's a melting pot of all different types of people. And we have this individualistic mindset in America where it's all about, pull your bootstraps up and just make it on your own type thing. So because everyone is individualistic in their upbringing, we approach everything in our own way. So a lot of first dates is, well, what do you think about this? What's your ideal, way to bring up kids? Like, you have to find out all these things, because we didn't, even if we grew up in the same neighborhood, we still have different ideals and principles. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why you can be a family oriented person and then come across a guy who's just like, well, I don't want you to spend too much time with family because I'm the most important person. I'm going to be your husband. I'm your man. I put me first. I need to be on a pedestal. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why we get a lot of insecure men who will try to separate you from your friends and your family, because they are jealous. Like you said, they are jealous. And I think that's also a part of the reason why we as Black women experience domestic violence in our relationships a lot, because the society hasn't trained men to articulate their emotions properly. So if they're not able to get their emotions out, they resort to violence. Like, you know what I mean? Their inherent desire to prove their macho-ness, to prove their masculinity all the time, they don't know how to direct their anger. They don't know how to, maneuver through different situations. They lack that ability, that emotional intelligence. So what happens is they don't even know how to recognize the value in the feminine that's in your presence. And then they turn all of their like insecurities and pour everything in on her. Like, you know what I mean? They don't want any help. So again, what makes our relationships difficult is so many things. It's us with this fake idea of love. It's them with them thinking they're supposed to get, a doormat, and then us not listening, and then them trying to strangle us. Like, you know what I mean? It's this disconnect is, from outside influences that we have internalized and grew up with, and it causes us to not be able to relate with one another, and just the individualism like really causes a big issue, a big issue. So that the domestic violence is a big thing, because I can think of every woman I know, and I feel like every woman I know has been assaulted in some way, shape, or fashion. And I feel like as a Black woman, that shouldn't be a common experience. Like, I shouldn't be able to walk up to a person I don't know and be like, have you ever experienced this? And she's like, yeah. Like it's normalized. Like, you know what I mean? So when I think about Black love, I always wonder, like, well, what is it? Is it the struggling? Is it the toxicity that comes with it? Because more than just our idea of it, I'm thinking about our experience and how can we change our experience? Like, what is it that, we can do to make sure that we're not in these particular environments and spaces, and making sure that we're honoring ourselves first and foremost. And I think you guys gave us some good ideas. Like, as soon as you see a red flag, get up out of there. You know what I mean?
Really?
Stop centering men, have hobbies, learn to love yourself before anything. And I think as a young girl growing up, there wasn't like a class on self-love. Like, there wasn't like an understanding of what that truly was too much. Like, you know what I mean? I think everything was, just be good. Just be good.
Yeah.
Stay within your you know, your image of goodness, don't break the law, be good in school, like the simple stuff. Like, you know what I mean? I grew up in what you call an abusive household, right? So I may not have grown up with my father, but I grew up with a stepfather. So he was the pinnacle of provider. He provided for the family, right? But he was everything else wrong with with a man. Okay, so he was insecure, jealous. My mom couldn't have any friends. She couldn't dress the way she wanted. She had to wear sweatsuits. When she had a job, he was jealous of her job. Like it was just all the things. He was you know, physically abusive to her and me, and it was just one of those situations where nobody knows how to handle that kind of character. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would notice as a young person, I would look at my family and wonder, like, well, who's going to stop this person from doing this? Like, you know what I mean? I can't, I'm too small. Obviously, I'm being tossed around. I can't do anything. So when I looked at, let's see, his family, like his brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, whatever, right? The most you would get from his side is like a talking to. Oh, you know, she's a wonderful woman, treat her right, right? But on my side, it's more of a don't talk to him about it. It's kind of like if you find a pedo inside the family, right? People don't really talk about it. They don't address it. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get to a space where how do we handle that situation in real time? Because there has been times where the abuse is witnessed. It's not just we hear about it. It's there's people there. Like, you know what I mean? And you're closing the door and we hear all the noises and people are just in the other room being quiet. Like, what is that?
Listen, self-preservation. Self-preservation is always going to be number one for me. And that's over everybody. Thank God I don't have kids because they would be the exception.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately the situation. And I think that us as Black people sometimes, and everybody really, we get in an echo chamber and we don't realize that these things, there's very few things I think that happens in the Black community that don't happen just as much everywhere else. But people don't talk about it. So this is common in get into other races of people's algorithm on TikTok and you'll see them complaining about the exact same things because humans are at the end of the day the same. So we know that habitually people aren't going to come to your defense. People are going to self-preserve because that's what you're doing, right? As a mom that lets her child's father, much less a stepfather, a mom that lets her husband, her child, like be abused by a man, if she's willing to do it, you know, the uncles and cousins don't really feel very obligated, sisters and aunties and all that kind of stuff. We know, we've established a pattern that's the norm, whether we've experienced it or not. So regardless of my experience, I know what's real. So self-preservation, when people turn the other cheek, when people are sitting in the other room quiet, when they hear fists hitting faces and pushing holes being put in walls, they're self-preserving, are they not? So you self-preserve too. And no matter what circumstances we grew up in, there are certain conditions that we as Black women and Black people have been conditioned, period. Even me, no matter how vastly different our upbringings are, we still have that stick by them, that conditioning. Don't say nothing, no snitching. I will snitch faster than you can drop a tear. Like self-preservation, because at this point, it doesn't matter. No matter what my experience was, I've always paid attention to what was going on around me and tried to my best to not look at things through the lens of my own experience, because that's what keeps me safe. That's what helps me self-preserve. I know, and just knowing how we as humans, women and men, are conditioned, no matter how wonderful a father I have, I don't trust men, including him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conclusions that I draw. Those same traits, even if we're talking about interracial dating, right? I have heard my dad say countless times and then seen my mom's react, not countless. He didn't say it a whole lot, but it was enough for me to remember. Like, oh, like if my brother would date a white girl, he had no problem with it, right? If I talked about dating, and I used to talk about it all the time because I knew it would annoy them, dating like non-Black men. Oh, now it's you. We don't date our oppressors, but you okay with my brother? So it's like we all have certain conditionings. We all have the same, no matter what our upbringing is. Self-preservation is always going to be the answer. Do what's best for you, no matter who get left by the wayside, unless it's your children. No matter who get weight, and that's assuming your children aren't grown. We're talking about your underage children,
Right? Yeah.
that are still in your care, because the grown kids is a whole nother thing. But that's what I feel like ultimately is the solution. We know what people are going to do. We know what people aren't going to do. We can't afford to be surprised if something happened. I also came from a really big family. My dad, it was 14 of them. It was 13 on my mom's side, siblings. So I came from a very large family. My grandmother had her first child at 14. I'm not under any illusions or delusions of what things are. The dowries, the things like that. I am not for sale. Unless it's a dowry for me that's going in my bank account, and having a patriarchal father who's also religious, is also understanding that I can't glorify him. This is why you will never see me weaponize growing up in a 2-parent household, because that is a thing. Like people weaponizing growing up in a 2-parent household, that is not the solution for anything.
Right.
So even having all of that, knowing that at the end of the day, just the idea of getting married and your dad giving you over to another man, absolutely. Why would a goddess ever pretend? Why would a goddess ever participate in shenanigans like that?
Right.
With what it means in this world, you are taking ownership from one man, my father, to another, my husband.
Yeah, they're just exchanging property, like you're
exchanging property. So
there you go.
Your dowries. I don't care what culture you come from. I'm not for sale. Keep your dowries. Now, arranged marriages, that might be beneficial. If I was still, maybe 23 and still wanted to get married and have kids, I would trust my dad to find me a man that would at least pay the bills. Now, if I was still in that mindset, in that space, if that's what I still wanted, arranged marriage. But then the parents would quickly figure out that it's not very many options. And then they would stop asking for grandbabies. You ain't getting it. But in all seriousness, yeah. So I also came from a big family, and I definitely understand that point, because if I was a person that, wanted family, that is, and I never really thought about it like that before. Like having somebody that understands the dynamics of family, like your family show up for you. Sometimes they're gonna be in your business because they have to be.
Yeah.
They're, so you don't get to just dismiss me of my family. So I just feel like it's up to women to be able to do those things. And that would absolutely be something, if I wanted a family and stuff like that, yes, spot on with that. Look for somebody who also, because that was also something that I learned, was people's operating system is very, very different. Like if they don't have family, they don't understand that you have obligations, even outside of obligations. Maybe you just enjoy being around your family.
Just the dynamics,
right?
Just how, like you said, operating system. Like this is the reason why Mac and Windows is not compatible. It's just It's just not compatible. There's nothing you can do about that. Like you cannot force that software on a operating system that is not. You always going to be fighting. You're constantly going to be fighting. And I feel like I said, I feel like my parents were able to co-parent well with each other because they were raised similarly. Like they were raised in a home. Like even though it was vastly different, right? And they were raised with a lot of extended family. So like I said, when it came to the co-parenting, if my mom needed something and my dad wasn't around, she could call his brother. She would call my uncle. And
right.
Right? It wasn't nothing. It wasn't no, oh, why she calling me? If like my uncle would come, and if I mean, he would take me to the doctor sometimes, and he would take me, school shopping. Like if
that's how it should be.
Car, like it was like there was no, and my father's family always looked at my mom as family. Like even to this day, they ain't been together since the 80s, and everybody still talks about my mom like she's a part of the family, because she is a part of the family, because that's the way that the family works. But both my parents, both my sets of grandparents were that very different. My mom's parents, were kind of like high school sweethearts. They grew up in the same neighborhood. Even the way they got married was like their families knew each other, right? So like the story of them was my grandfather's aunts and uncles and my grandmother's aunts and uncles always used to hang out at the same bar together. So one day they were like, oh, we're going to a wedding next weekend. And they were like, oh, we're going to a wedding next weekend. They said, oh, my niece is getting married. Oh, my nephew's getting married. And then that's when they realized, oh, the families are going to be married to each other. So I'm like, oh my God, that's a beautiful story, right? So both sides of the family already knew each other. So it was very organic. Whereas with my Jamaican side, with my father's parents, my grandmother told me that she didn't even want to get married. She said she wanted to go to the nunnery, and she wanted to go to the convent and be a nun. She had no intention on getting married. And then my grandfather procured her from her mother, came to her mother's house, made an arrangement, and came out and was like, it's done. She was like, what's done? He's like, we're getting married.
What's done?
She's like, I don't want to get married. He was like, we're getting married.
Like, how could
you?
So
that made me realize, like, that made a whole lot of story in that side of the family make sense. Where everybody always said, well, she was so mean and she was so cold. I said, she didn't want none of this. In her mind, she wanted to give her life to God and be a nun. That is a totally different life than being a wife and mother of 6.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, that lady's mad.
Man, so like I would be mad too.
My cousin was over like, well, why didn't she leave? I said, listen, what you saying? Where was she going in 1950?
With 6 kids.
Right.
Back to the mother that sold her off. She can't go back there.
Right.
You can't go back there. You can't go back there. And her father died. That's what started the whole thing on, because she was raised by her father. My great-grandfather raised my grandmother from when she was an infant. Her mother didn't even raise her. So the minute that the man died, her mother trying to figure out how to marry her off. I'm like, you thinking about a woman looking at another woman and assessing her beauty and saying, okay, this is what I can get for my daughter. And subsequently get something for me too, right? If I marry my daughter off to this man who's going places, this is the 50s in Jamaica. He was going to England. That's a big deal. He's a big deal, right? And then they're
oh yeah.
Now I'm thinking about it in hindsight. I said there was probably plenty of women that wanted my grandfather, and he didn't want them. He wanted what he wanted. He's like, I want her.
They always want the one that don't want
she
them.
Ain't want nothing to do with the man. She ain't want nothing to do with this man. And I looked at the wedding picture, and she looks so beautiful, but she looks so sad. It's the saddest wedding. So miserable. She looks so sad. And when I'm telling you, when she told me that, she told me this casually. As my grandfather's dying, I'm painting her nails, and she just casually just says, I didn't even want to get married. I'm sitting there like, girl.
And the fact that she was cognizant, cognizant of that she didn't want to get married, and then
she's like, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want it. Rich, I did not want to get married. And it's like, well, damn, that explains a lot. No wonder she was not the warm and fuzzy grandmother. She was not. She was serious about all the things. She was like house, all kinds of stuff. But she was a nice trophy that this man wanted. She never learned how to drive. She said when they got to England, she wanted to go back to school and finish her degree. And my grandfather told her, I ain't bring you here to go to school. And I was like, I'm just thinking about it in my present day mind. I'm like, I would have flipped. I could not imagine a man telling me what I'm not going to. I just couldn't imagine.
All right.
I just could not imagine it.
Listen, they put me in the decade I belong in because it was women like me back then. It was always women. Let me tell you something.
Okay, ain't nobody would.
Let me tell you something.
Grandchildren, all I'm gonna say right now. Okay, please, nobody would be here.
Listen,
the whole family bloodline would have been finished. They ain't talking like crazy.
All I'm gonna say exactly because listen. We're gonna make sure you got a nice hefty insurance policy because I'm gonna need it.
Right.
So that's what we're not doing. That is what we not doing.
So I think so that also colors the way I feel about relationships and the way I feel about my own singleness and whether I have a husband or a man, anything. I'm living a life that there's women that came before me that did not get to live a life that I had. Right? Neither one of my grandmothers knew how to drive a car. Neither one of my grandmothers ever lived on their own, ever. And if I think about how important that is and how many other grandmothers before them didn't always have the responsibility of a husband and a family and all of these things, and how important it is and what it means to be somebody who is probably one of the first women in this line in my family to live on my terms, to work and do the job that I want to do, to live what I want to live, to not have to cater to a man and children, and how healing that could be, and what that looks like for other people who are in our family to be like, oh, well, cousin so-and-so lives how she want to live, and she, she's doing all right.
Period.
And being that type of example. And if I do get a man, trust me, people, listen, my friends and my family laugh about it all the time. It's like, I ain't never, nigga don't break nobody around. Hell no. Because I cherish my family. I'm so.
Why?
I don't play that. I was like, if you do see a man with me, trust me, he is worshiping the ground that I walk on. All right.
Period. That is the only
thing how it's supposed to be.
And when you get it, you don't want nothing else. And I had it a couple of times. Don't want nothing else. Not anything else is unacceptable. I'll sit right here by myself.
Please.
Like I'll sit out, and that's the kind of women I want to be surrounded by. Women like you who if you get it, great. If he rolls stroll in your life, great. You get to have your bit, great. But if you don't, it's so much to do. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't really see it like that. That's their only goal. So, and I get it. I watched the movies. The movies had, regardless of how I might come off, I'm a hopeless romantic. I want everything. I want all the experiences. And if I can't have it, I don't want it. I don't want anything. I don't want nothing. Like, so for me, it's like the same. Just give me what I want or don't give me anything. I was going to say about something that you said, because for me, it was my aunts, right? So I was raised heavily religious, but my mom, my dad's sisters, all of my dad's family, pretty much, except my dad and two of his other brothers, lived in the Bronx. So, I spent a lot of time in New York City and with my family there. My aunts and stuff, which were old enough to be my dad's dad, because not my dad's mom, because, that's how long you have to have. You got 14 kids, you having them for 20 years. You're popping up for 20 years. So when my dad was young, he would go to New York City, to spend time with them. They were the ones who told me, enjoy your life. Don't worry about having babies. Don't worry about getting married. And that's all they would say. They wouldn't say too much but I feel like because they saw the way I was being raised, and the way I'm raised is not the norm in my family. I have a very large family, range from everything you can think of. My mom's family was very opposite. My grandfather on my mom's side was whooping my grandmother's ass. She was the sweetest woman you would ever see. I'm not like that.
Right.
So with all of that, it's like we have to break down what love means to us as individuals. And that starts with self-love, because you cannot love someone if you don't love yourself properly. Something else that y'all had said earlier about men not wanting help. I had this conversation with one of my exes, and I realized this not too long ago. They don't want help. I can't help you. The only thing I can do is be an example the way my aunts were. Now, my aunts had kids. They were married, but their husband died and stuff. My aunt only had one kid. So they bopping around New York City. They could walk faster than I could. But they were and when I would come, they would talk shit to my dad and I got her up here now. She not coming back. So that was my saving grace. And I'm glad that I listened to them. I'm glad that I listened to them. Now, my sister have a whole different lifestyle than I do, but I'm glad I listened to them. And for me, I'm just trying to be an example. I don't want or expect people to, everybody to not want to have kids and everybody to think like I do. No, have them, but do it smart. Love yourself first, because when I was talking, you know how men would say, "Oh, we can't express our feelings, we can't eat." And my ex would be like, every time something would come on, he would be like, "Well, I don't feel comfortable. Like, this is not helping me want to." Well, that's because you don't want to. Women aren't the ones who are stopping y'all from expressing your feelings. It's other men
Right. Exactly.
who you don't want to be embarrassed by or feel less than a man because you're so. I can't make you do anything. I can't make you want to be better. You have to be on that frequency with me for me to be able to indulge with you,
Right.
and meaning my only job now is I live freely. I travel the world. I do what I want. I go to brunches. I stay in the house. I don't go anywhere. And I just want to be an example for other girls and younger women who know you don't have to live this way, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to live the way I live either, because I'm a particular kind of person who with particular goals that you might not have. So I live the lifestyle that's most conducive for me and my needs. I don't like commitment. I don't want somebody to be in my bed every day. If you desire that, while being a hopeless romantic, I too was affected by the movies. And one of those things, I just did not let those things make my decisions for me. So it stayed in my head, maybe one day I'll get it. Maybe I won't. Either way.
Right. I think there's a split between the women who come to the realization about devoting yourself to a man wholeheartedly to your own detriment, and coming into the new understanding of, well, how do I deal with this particular man? Some have decided on just centering themselves in their lives, which also means celibacy, or just making a full life without a man in it and being okay with that. But then there's also women who's like, well, I can see all these things and I do love myself and I do center myself, but I still want to be able to interact with men at the same time, because at the end of the day, the attraction, the physical biological need is still there. So it's just like,
Unfortunately.
how do I do that? Right. Like, how do I do that? And I think one of the things I want to get your guys' opinions on is, what does that look like? What is the best way to go about that? Because I think one thing that we have realized is devoting yourself to a man can drain your life energy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can physically start to see the signs of stress weighing on your health, just different things. Like, you know what I mean? So I think the reason why that happens is because we have been engaging in relationships in the patriarchal manner, where your desire is to your husband or to your man or whoever it is, to where your values, to where your identity, you as a person is not prioritized at all, really. So whether you're trying to be his therapist, where you're trying to convince him to open up, or just stop living in that box of masculinity. You can cry to me, you can open up to me, talk to me about your boss and your life and things like that, and I'll be there for you. Or be his mom, nurture him, schedule his doctor's appointments because he don't want to go on his own. Like, it's all these different things where you are his everything. You're his teacher, you're his mom, you're his therapist, you're his lover, you're performing in the bedroom in a way that blows his mind, blah blah blah. So you're doing all the things, and I think that's what drains our life force energy. That's what makes relationships and marriage a death sentence. I truly believe in changing the dynamic of not only how we relate. I think how we relate changes based off of how we see ourselves, how we navigate the world. And once you come into that level of self-love, once you realize your own divinity as a woman, you start to have different standards. You start to change who you accept in your space, because you realize that your energy is in itself something that is valuable, that should be cherished. Like, you know what I mean? So as you can tell, I have my shirt here. I am polyandrous. So I believe that when it comes to relationships, it's not about being what that man needs. And that's the first thing that needs to change about this society. It's not about being what he needs. It's about him coming in and adding value to your life, whatever it may be. Because I feel like everyone has strengths and weaknesses, right? What is your strength?
Mm-hmm.
What is your talent? What is the thing that you offer as the supportive energy that's supposed to be in the life of the creator? Because the woman is the creator, right? So the man is the supportive energy. Embrace that, be that. That's what masculine energy is. What do you bring to the table? How do you support my ability to create? You know what I mean? So come in with that. You may come in with the ability to, you may have intellectual, strength. You may have an emotional strength. You may have a physical strength. You may be able to get resources easily. Whatever it is, come in and be of service to the woman that's in your life. I don't even think that men realize that they would have more success with women if they actually cared about women. You like, like trying to make her your slave is just not working. I don't understand how they don't realize that right now. So yeah, I feel like in order for us to experience a real Black love, in my vision of what that is, I think the entire dichotomy of the way the relationship structure is has to change from patriarchal to matriarchal. The woman has to be centered. Her ability to curate the proper energy for the home, her ability to create a place that's healing for you, her ability to bring in new life into the world, all of that has to be centered and appreciated and valued. And every man coming into your life has to come in looking like, you know what, I appreciate this about you. How can I help you? How can I help you do this? Because I know that when I'm in your presence itself heals me. If I sit and listen, to what you have to say, I will gain knowledge. I'll gain wisdom. Like I feel like we just have to change our societal conditioning, and then our relationships will subsequently start to change.
Yep. We have to deconstruct what we've been taught how to live, like what's acceptable and what's not. Because obviously, it's not working. Because even in the best of homes and the best of situations, something end up missing. Something end up, so being able to deconstruct what that looks like, well, that'll be the start of us being able to show up in a different way. But then people have to want to do it. So you have to want to look at things differently rather than try to stuff yourself into the confines of what it says. Because I think you had a question about like a prompt about Shira's point of like what Shira's message. And the thing about that is, that's kind of, perpetuating what people call traditionalism, but it's not really traditional. Traditional means something that the majority of people do, or a large group of people do for an X amount of time, right? The majority of people the majority of men have not taken care of homes as the only person making money and women staying home. That's the majority for anyone. Not even white. So they have created this image of that as who they are, and then we are the opposite. They're lying. I talk to them every day, mostly them. They're lying. The majority of them work, and they work hard, and they be popping back up in the office. It ain't even been a good whole 2 months after dropping them babies. So listen, but what I was going to say about like Shira's method and stuff like that would be nice. It's not realistic for the majority of people, which she also says that she's very clear about that. And that the majority of women would never be able to implement the things that she say, because you have to fundamentally not like men or respect them to be able to successfully implement those things. And when I was listening to Shira, I did it and it worked. I was dating and it worked. I went according to not who I was attracted to, but who was attracted to me. Who would find me attractive. You have to be realistic about that, because you can't expect, somebody that's not attracted to you, or somebody that's not attractive enough for you to do that. So that on top of most women being desperate for marriage, but you don't even know why. You just want to be married because that's what we've been programmed to believe from Disney Channel and from all of these movies, even though that's not real. You just want to be married. You don't know why. Is it partnership that you want? Is it because you cannot expect one person to fulfill every need when they don't even know how to fulfill their own needs? So I'm with the polyamory. I would much rather, if I felt like dealing with romantic relationships, I find it draining. I want a couple of them for different things.
Yeah.
Like I'm not expecting one person to show up for me in every way, but I also would want that to be feasible. There's a lot of conversations that got to be had. It's a lot of communication. I don't trust people enough to do that. So it would have to be very star aligned, very perfect, very not perfect, but like it would have to be really in alignment for me to do that, because I know the majority of people still have the construct of the way we've been conditioned. So even when that you know, the man would have to have deprogrammed himself even more than us.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
What's the odds? The odds not in my favor.
One of my like requirements. Like even as I continue to date and look into the world of love and all that, it's a requirement. That's why whenever I come across a man, the first thing he has to do is be a student before I even take you seriously as a romantic interest. You have to be a student first. You have to go through a good amount of deprogramming. Like you have to be in my classes. You got to be sitting here having conversations with me. I have to see an actual change in your ideal of how men and women should interact with each other. Like there has to be an respect for women. I have to see what your relationship with your mom is like. I have to like there's so much in trying to.
That's so exhausting. That sounds so exhausting, but 1000%, that's exactly how I would feel. And I just don't, not to be pessimistic, because I can be pessimistic because I don't value, that's not a priority for me. Romantic relationship is probably more, I want a series of lovers. Romantic relationship is not a priority for me. So I can feel like that. And, other people may be different, but you got to have a certain level of consciousness. Certain things you got to know. And I only deal with intelligent people because I'm not going to explain certain things. I can't deal with dumb people because I don't have the patience, and I'm not going to sit and explain basic concepts to you. So like you said, you have to have all the deconstructed patriarchy. How many men have done that realistically? I'm not boo-boo the fool. Majority of them have and what?
like 1%. 1%. Like it's not that.
They out there, but how much energy? But yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, I was just going through like just the options in general. Like I feel like Shara's method of dating strictly for resources, or being able to go into that world strictly for your physical well-being, is one option. Interracial dating is another option, and I think that's another option because a lot of times when we look at Black women and their experience with Black men, it is traumatic. And then once you see that Black woman will go to a white partner, you'll see that they're all of a sudden happy. Eve, just different people. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's even this woman I used to watch on YouTube from back in the day, Tara Monet. She had a Black husband for a while, up until the one time all his pictures disappeared from her social media and she had a white man. I was like, oh! But she looked so happy. Like, you know what I mean? And then they come out with the stories of how toxic the relationship was that we didn't really know about. And so I think when we look at that swirl love, it is highly put out there as that's probably one of the main ways for a Black woman to experience a type of love that isn't toxic, in a way of where the man is intimidated by her greatness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even the statistics say that the Black woman and the white man have the least amount of divorce rates according to any other group. So it's just so many things that go into, well, what is a solution for us to be able to have a healthy type of relationship? Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know, dating for
Yeah.
resources, interracial dating, lesbian
Know your
relationships.
goals.
Kind of like
Yeah.
Princella, she decided, oh, I'm not dealing with men no more because I see how they are. I'm gonna just date women now. So that's also
Yeah.
a path that I see women walking. And
Now
then
I'm also queer. I identify as queer. So
okay.
my last relationship was with a girl, was with a woman. And I just, again, romantic relationships is not a priority for me. So when stuff start, I leave before the party is over. That's the kind of person I am. But not intentionally. Like I show up my whole self. I give, I show up, I give. I know who I am, right? I to a Virgo. I don't play around because I know how I can be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we back. Am I back? Was that me?
I was wondering.
Okay. But what I was saying is my internet. What I was saying is like I'm a Virgo too. So I know we can be of servitude, right? So I have those traits in me. So I have to be very guarded with myself and very, I have to be able to spot red flags because I'll give and give and give and give. And then givers attract takers sometimes, and people will take and take and take. So that's why I don't leave the party over before the party's over because I want to. I leave the part before the party's over because I have to, to protect myself and my well-being. But
Right.
well, it was something else that you had said as well that I was going to respond to, and I forgot my computer.
The options.
The last thing you said. The list of options, the goals. So I think every individual woman have to know what their goal is. That takes a lot of internal, work, sitting with yourself, self-mastery, because you got to know what you want and why you want it. You can't just want to get married, right?
Right.
That means you just want to get married to anybody. You don't care about the person. You care about the act of getting married.
Right.
Do you actually like men? If you're going to use them for money, you can't like them. You can't really respect them, but you got to be able to play the game. Do you have the energy for that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So people have to figure out, right. People have to figure out what their goals are and then decide what's going to, if you just want to get married, you don't care who it is, date everybody who look in your direction.
Yeah.
Because you playing a game of odds. You don't care about love. You just want to get married because you want to feel validated through getting a ring or whatever. Or if partnership, that can look different. That don't have to look like a marriage, but we're still in this 3D reality. So sometimes a nuclear family, sometimes marriage is, if you want kids, you may want to think about getting married. Unless it's to a bum. Don't get married to a bum. You don't want to be financially tied to a bum. But if you have kids, you may want to not listen to me on getting married because you need to secure yourself and your children if that man decides to like.
Yeah, and anything happen.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of women, we are so coded to operate off of automation, which is the program of telling us what we're supposed to want to feed the system, that most people don't really know what they want or why they want it. So you're just gonna keep moving the goalposts, but then you got to be comfortable with knowing that you might not get it. So
right.
If you want to get married, if you just want to be partner, if that's going to make you feel validated, now we playing a numbers game. Date everybody who look in your direction. Get on every app. Good luck. See you tomorrow.
Funny, bro. Good luck.
I support everybody and whatever shenanigans they want to get in.
Right.
Just be smart about it. Be smart about it and assume whatever accountability and responsibility come with the choices that you make. That's it. If you can do that, you will be good. You can go play a numbers game because you'll know who not to play with. You'll know who not to introduce yourself with. And reserve your energy, especially spiritual energy. Don't go, banging around with everybody that you see or really anybody. If you really want to get what you want, you got to stay focused and that cloud judgment. But I want to hear Nikki.
Yeah.
I got some thoughts on things. So when it comes to divesting and interracial dating, I am not into white men. I primarily work with white men, work in TV and film. I would be in an extreme minority at work. I'm surrounded by them. Listen, I'm very black culturally, right? If I was like a woman who my black identity was not important to me, I could possibly see me entertaining white men seriously. But me personally, I can't, because your mother and them is not like, listen, you might like think you like black women. Do your family know that?
Right. Yeah.
You know, if your mother is Mima and Paw gonna call me the hard R at the
or
dinner
is it a
table,
fetish?
I'm flipping the turkey, the ham, everything is going, the green bean casserole, everything's going fine, because I'm not taking that, right? Like, and are you know, are you gonna be willing to give up your whole family? Like, that's too much, sir. This is just
it's too much to ask of somebody.
I don't want nothing from nobody that bad. That's crazy. Now, there are other cultures besides black and white, right? Like there's a lot of other people, and I'm open to, again, it goes into the shared family, into the shared values and things like that. Because like I said, culturally, my life is very black. You know, like my biological family is super black. My religious family is very black and Puerto Rican, right? Even in dating certain black men, I have to be very discriminating about, are you open-minded about different types of blackness, right?
Right.
I had a guy a couple of years ago make a derogatory comment about Caribbean people, and I was like, bro, you just offended half my family. I'm from Flatbush, and you offended half of my family. You offended all of my religious family. Like, I come from a bunch of island folks.
Right.
You know, I can't take, if I can't take you, you know, and I'm still a very active part of Caribbean culture. Like, do you feel some type of way about Carnival? Do you feel some type of way about dance hall music and soca? And like, I'm not trying to have them arguments about whether you think me dancing in a party is cheating on you. Like, I don't have time for none of that, right?
Oh my God.
But these are the things that come up, right? Like,
that's crazy.
These are the things that come up. They be like, "Oh, you guys," and it's like this. It's just a wine. I was just dancing. I did not get his phone number. I was just having a good time. It was a party. Nobody was being, you know, what you may consider to be inappropriate. I'm just literally saying it's a culture, and I'm literally gonna have 30-second dance going on about my business.
Yeah, right.
You can't pay me to date a Jamaican man again.
Oh no, I don't do Jamaican. My father's Jamaican. That's enough. Please. I'm done.
My closest friends are Jamaican.
I have Jamaican exes. I've had Haitian exes. I'm saying Haitian men, Jamaican men. They off the table.
Me too.
They off the table. I cannot. Nigerian. Because I would say I'm too American for that, right? Like, I'm Caribbean, but I'm too American for that, right? So, because sir, the police are gonna be called. It's gonna be a problem. I'm not putting up with nonsense. You're not gonna cheat on me, and I don't normalize cheat, right? It's like it's a lot of cultural things that people would normalize. I don't have this. I never did have this thing where I thought that it's natural for a man to cheat on you. That's just something that you have to accept. I always felt that cheating was very
disrespectful,
abusive.
Violating.
Full stop. You cannot cheat on me and say that you love me, and it's a very strange thing to be like, this person is, you know. And I feel like a lot of women, especially growing up, they, again, this like Madonna whore mentality of being like, well, he's gonna go and he always knows where home is. It's like, girl, that type of mental gymnastics, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Like, I feel like if you truly love me, you will respect me. You will not be cheating on me. You would not have people calling my phone. Nobody's coming to me as a woman. I'm not dealing with none of that. Like, and I never been one to go through a man's phone. Like, that's not my thing either, right? If I feel like you're gonna cheat on me, if I feel like you're doing something improper, I will leave. Again, like I said, I will leave. I'm not running no other woman down. I'm not fighting. I'm not. So it's like, again, when we're talking about just like how people show up with a certain level of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity, I've always, again, like I said, I'm very Libra, very, you know, I have this. I don't think I'm asking for too much by expecting you to have respect and emotional maturity. I ain't expecting you to be freaking Einstein, right? Like, I understand that there's people have different types of intelligence. I do expect you to be intelligent. You know, I grew up with my dad, my father never finished high school. My mom was a college graduate, but my father, I would consider him to be very intelligent. You know, he's very interested in his Black culture and his history, and he's a tradesman, right? And I always respected the fact that tradesmen, maybe they didn't go to college. That does not mean that they're not intelligent, right? Like it does take intelligence to, and you have to know math, you have to know science, like you have to know these things. So I always was able to recognize that certain people have different levels of intelligence. So I'm not expecting a man to be as bookish and book smart as me. Personally, I don't really get along with them kind of men, you know, those we don't get along because I'm like, actually. No, actually, so I don't care. Yeah, I'm sorry. Please, I don't want to hear it. Like, I love a man that has a toolbox and tinkers. That's my personal preference. Okay? So like I said, I work with a lot of white men, and I work with a lot of men who were very handy. So it was nice to be able to see men operating in that way while also recognizing I don't want a white man. That's not my thing. Right. You know, I hear the way they talk about their wives. I hear the way they talk about I was like, ooh, good grief. Like, you know, it's a very they have a different set of programming.
Listen. Let me tell you.
You cannot talk about me like that. That's crazy. Like if your wife knew the things you were saying about her.
A man literally told me 2 days ago, if his wife didn't call in and make her a payment, he was gonna divorce her ass. When I say they hate each other, that's why I say, like,
you can't be glorifying other people's stuff.
You can't. We cannot glorify what we think. Yes, we cannot glorify what we think.
You don't know what they put up with.
They're masking.
People send their daughters to college for a husband, right? Like, which is very different than us going to college for our education, right?
Right.
Black women are the most educated group in this country because we were told, go to school, get your education. Don't go there looking for no man. Don't come back pregnant. Make sure you come up to a degree. That was the messaging. And if you ain't got the degree, you better go get you a job. You better
they was told to go get a ring. A lot of
it wasn't go get a ring. Like that's a different. And I've seen the way that even the way that white women are socialized is so different from the way that we're socialized.
It is.
We show up differently in work. We're more confident. We're more able to assert ourselves. We're able to advocate for ourselves in ways that they're not socialized that way. So it's like that's why I cannot idolize. I don't have no white woman aspirations, which is why I'm not into
Hell
white
no.
women. We're not compatible. They may be attracted, right? Because they feel a little jungle fever or whatever. But it's like, brother, man, no. Like, get away from me. I'm good on that.
I've dated a few nationalities of men, of non-black men, and white was the worst. Like, they're just, and this don't speak for all white men, but the few that I dealt with, like, it didn't get past a date or two, but they're dull. My favorite was Indian men. So
yeah, I heard they love black women.
So that's why I said, like, you have to pick. When I was interested in dating, and I was dating a lot. It was very exhausting. This was like 2021, and I was dating a rainbow. This was after I was like, okay, well, we're gonna play a game of numbers, like I was talking earlier. Let me just go out on dates, and I was going out on dates with white dudes and Indian dudes. I dated a Moroccan dude, and listen, men are men. You are going to it's always a trade-off. So a lot of women that think, that they have to date white men to experience certain things. This is a thing. Like, white women and black women's life experiences are on opposite trajectories. So the things that we look for, the things that we believe we don't have, right? So of course, when you meet a white man who's used to working hard and used to paying bills, not that black men don't, but it's just that they're also in a white supremacist society, so they're going to do better naturally,
right? Of course.
So they dating them. What was the last thing I be losing my train of thought? Because I be having so many thoughts in my mind. But dating them was more so like it's just they're socially awkward. They're very socially awkward. This is how they end up saying very uncomfortable things. Now, granted, they didn't really say it to me, but like, oh, chocolate and all these things that black women can read as fetishizing them. But they're socially awkward, especially when it comes to black women. The only place I like white men is in the office. because they respect Black women more in the office setting than they do white women. And I've dated Indian men. I liked Indian men the best because, of course, I'm size 1X-ish. So I have to know who probability. I'd have to know who's gonna like thicker women, Mexicans, and I do mean specifically Mexican. The Moroccan. So a guy I dated for a while, every now and then he'll message me, like, okay, I forgot you existed. They like plus size women. They're more, he used to hate when I called him Middle Eastern. He used to get on his nerves so bad. I do it because it was annoying, but because they're in Africa, it's a whole thing, and I'm not gonna get into that. But basically, they like Black women, right?
You know, that's the thing too. You know,
right?
Like body type and like who.
So
who's gonna accept you?
Exactly. There's a specific kind of white guy who like, plus size women. If you get a southern, country kind of white dude, they love some booty.
But not that waspy. That waspy white man, they like them. You gotta be, like I said, if you a rail thin and you kind of on the Eurocentric side, then you could get that, Long Island, Berkshires, Connecticut white. It's regional. It really is regional. But that Midwest white man and that Southern white man, he gonna like you a little cornbread fed, That's just he gonna like you a little bit. But it's like, I'm not into that. Listen, I had a guy last summer. He came to work in a dashiki. I was like, I'm not dating the white man.
Was he white?
I'm not dating the white man.
Was he white? Oh, God.
White man in a dashiki. He kept on trying. I was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, you think that you putting up the bat signal? First of all, I'm not even the dashiki wearing kind of Black girl. So that
that's the thing.
I'm not the audience for that.
Like
socially awkward.
Like it's the Black woman who gives them their flavor, if that makes sense. That's why there's a such thing as the Black wife effect. Have you seen that on social media? It's like the white men become more cultured, more well-rounded. They become their better selves after they've had a white wife who changed their entire style, the way that they walk, the way that they talk, give them more confidence. All that stuff happens because they have a Black wife. So
yeah, I remember what I was going to say when I was talking about the differences. So like Black women and white women are raised differently, so we look for different things. That feeling that Black women have when they first start dating interracially, or even specifically dating a white man, and you don't have to, I find them to be cheap too. So I don't know where the ones I went out with, there's other layers, but you're always going to look for the thing that you think you don't have. So that's how a lot of them end up in relationships with white men, and then it turn a little bit, even though they still stay together from the statistics, Black women and white men, but you're not used in the Black community. Black women are not used to being provided for in that way. So that's why the same thing happening when we turn 18, go to college, go to get a degree, don't be chasing after no boys, don't come back with no babies. White women, go to college, find a man.
Right.
The white women that I did go to college with, like a lot of them got married. They was the biggest thotty boppers around. But when that fourth year was over, it's time to pop out babies. It's time to get married. Clockwork. So we have different approaches in patriarchy, but it's always going to the grass is always going to look greener on the other side, bottom line. So when Black women finally get somebody that ain't asking for pay half the date bill, pay half the bill at Chili's, right? Oh, I found me a good thing. I found me, right?
It's like
until you have to go meet his weird cousins, because we ain't even got to mama and grandmama yet. Let's talk about the weird, awkward conversations you're gonna have to have with the people he think is progressive if he hasn't dismantled white supremacy in his own mind and patriarchy, right? So now we gotta go. So it's give or take. Do you want to get your bills paid? Because white men don't like paying for women's bills. Make no mistake. I hear them complaining about it every day. They don't like it, but they do it. So are you going to get your bills paid? May have to deal with the occasional microaggression or maybe even aggressive, or are you going to deal with a Black man who's culturally, similar? So you're not going to have to deal with that, but you might end up having to be the breadwinner, or you might end up having to worry about him like popping up some kids he didn't tell you about or something like that. Not everybody, but I just said that to say it's give and take. So it's no right way to exist. It's no right proper answer for me. However, being a goddess, being a proud, Black woman, my end result, Indian man was my favorite. If I did go into the dating world, I would probably concentrate there. They have their cultured, they can hold a good conversation, right? It's not those awkward conversations between you and a white man where race is like circling the room like a tornado, right? Because he's white. They know they can hold their end of the conversation. They bring their own cultural experiences. It's a whole thing. And I'm a yogi, so I also, am really into that. That also helped me find common ground with them. But ultimately I find that knowing what I know, this is going to sound so bad, but I would not water down my superior genetics.
And I think that's accepted by the Indian man.
Even with them. So even with them, right? And I believe there are a lot of them are darker than all of us combined.
Yeah.
Even with that, that's still different. Different culture, different race, ethnicity. In this world, that race matters, right? Well, in a perfect world, none of it would matter. But here it does matter. I don't like to say this out loud or in public for Black men to hear, because it don't need to be said. Y'all don't deserve for your heads to be blown up any more than it already is. So I'll keep it to myself. But I have type. Okay. I have a type. And he's very dark. I didn't know I had a type. I always used to run around until one of my friends was like, girl, that's your type right there. And I was like, oh, it is. I got a type. I do. And he's 6'5", very dark. Look like them fine dudes from straight from the motherland. But if they don't act right, guess what? Oh well. You won't get the babies out of me. You won't get a marriage out of me. I'm not going to participate. I definitely have a type. And that's what after dating a bunch of people, a bunch, different races, even the Moroccan dude was cool. But then there's the cultural barriers, right? There's certain, I grew up Muslim. I grew up Christian. So, and he like very lax about, I don't care about religion and that kind of thing, but he kind of did. Because he kept talking about it, right? He kept talking about it. And so he was like, well, would it raise my kids religious? I would let them choose. I was like, so what would your family think about that?
Right. Yeah.
And if your family would care, I'm anti-religion. Like, I don't, so it's always factors with the Indian guy. They are, what type of family, they're very structured in their family. They're very culturally, like their culture is very much still certain things that's different from my Americanized self. So I have to take that into consideration. Ultimately, I would rather have someone of a similar culture in a similar race than me. Now, I'm not stupid enough to participate just because I think that, unless the right one comes along or the one I want to have fun with. I'm not trying to get married anyway. So I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to be celibate. I'm not going to call it that. I'm not going to call it a thing. Do I do a lot? No, I do not. Because if you don't deserve it, if you're not worth, anyway, I was about to take this conversation to the left, but
no, but
if you deserve it, I'm not.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, one thing is also making sure that when you are choosing a person, you have to be able to discern whether they're worthy of entering.
That part.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a big thing. So I'm glad you said that.
I am celibate. I haven't. What year we in? 2025. It's been like 2 years now.
Listen.
I'm like a camel. I'm fine. Like I am. I mean, do I get an urge? Of course. But like the way my mind is set up, and like the way, even like I said, like my spiritual, my religious practice is set up. You know, it's a bigger decision. I have like certain taboos religiously that, you know, like certain things I'm not allowed to do, not like from a patriarchal standpoint, but just like from like me personally, like that's in my life as like certain things I can't do. And I realized, like, especially as I got older, you know, if I would have gotten the same instruction and information when I was younger, I might have felt some type of way about it. I might have felt like, oh, I'm being restricted and all that stuff. But as I'm like, you know, understanding the importance of what my sexual energy does for me, you know, and in terms of as an artist, like, and be able to turn out certain, and being able to execute certain things, and being able to focus on certain things, it made me very stingy with it, you know. And
period.
And I don't consider myself to be approved by any means, right? Like, I don't have this like thing of like, I don't feel nothing like that. Like, please, like I am celibate in practice, okay? Because mentally, I'm having a time, right? But it's also a thing of like truly like connecting with somebody in a way that I need to feel safe on a multitude of levels. Right.
Yes.
I need to feel safe and take my clothes off, because I have been in some, like I said, as we're talking about, like, as you know, spiritual women, as intuitive women, I have been in certain situations that I find to be like totally frightening, but realizing like, girl, this could have ended badly, you know. This could have been dangerous, like, this was dangerous, you know. And you had enough sense to be like, okay, let's take, you know, let's not push the envelope, let's go home, you know, let's put our clothes back on. Maybe we don't want to do this. And you know, getting out of certain situations where it's like, damn, that could have ended badly, you know, in the pursuit of what? And me just trying to scratch an itch is like, I can't, you know, sacrifice my safety and my peace of mind and all of that stuff for a little piece of sausage every now and then. That's nuts, you know. That I'm sorry, like, I get it, I understand it, but to me, the risk does not outweigh the reward.
It doesn't. Right. It doesn't. So even
and not even from the emotional, like, take my, I could
period,
out of the equation. I can put my emotions in the drawer, and it's not even about that, but from like a
pure logic,
a standpoint of like, this is not safe, right? Like, this is not safe. Like, this person could do something harmful to me. And especially with men who are not in control of their sexual desires, they're not in control of their emotions. I could be very triggering to a lot of men, just in the way that I express myself. And now I done triggered something in this man, and now he want to kill me because I'm not following the script of how I'm supposed to behave and how I'm supposed to be acting. And again, if I don't know this man, if I truly have not taken time, like Akasha said, to figure out how this man thinks, see where his head is at, see how he feels about stuff. Like, if I have not totally taken that on and truly like really looked at this man, and not from my loins, but really looked at this man and been like, this man, I went out on a date with a guy one time years ago, an older guy, and he, you know, he was nice enough, but you know, at the end of the day, we kissed, right? And the way the man acted off one kiss, I said, I can't get this man no coochie.
What you?
This man, I could just tell. It was like, sir, you acting like, what? How, you are 40-something years old, sir. You ain't never had a good smooch before. Relax yourself. He was too into it.
He was too into it. Because you know where that's gonna lead. He might, the R word. That could get there because you're
and it was giving he had no control. It was giving he didn't have a good harness on his energy. It was giving he was and of course in the course of a couple of days he definitely showed his hand in a way that was like and something that he said, he was just like, you know, I don't be taking women out like that. And I had to throw it back at him. I said you've been slipping around this whole time, right? He was like, well, yeah. I was like, all right.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
But he was. No, but here's the thing. I said, you have placed too much emphasis on the fact that you took me out on a nice date. Because that's not something that you do, because you thought that you reserved that for something special. Meanwhile, you out here slinging sausages to anybody that'll take it.
Right.
And you think in your mind,
community penis.
In your mind, you think, oh, I'm just sleeping with them, but I spent a little money on you, so it's supposed to mean more. I said, that's you doing that.
You so dumb. You thought that was, you should repeat that.
I couldn't take myself.
You see how men place value on themselves.
We went on a nice date. I had a good time. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good time. I wanted to, I kissed you because I wanted to, not because I felt like you was forcing it on me. But now I'm seeing where your head is at. If I give you a crumb of coochie meow meow, you're gonna be outside of
acting crazy. Yep.
And I'm not here for that. Now you think you own me because you let me? Absolutely not. I know I don't want to do. And he didn't understand that. He was like very confused. Like and it's just like, again, you're immature. It doesn't matter that you're 42 years old. You're moving like you're 16. Yep. You're sitting here acting like a little dinner at City Island is enough for me.
It's the entitlement. It's the audacity and entitlement mixture together that made him act like a fool.
Acting up, and I was just like, no. And then there was other things that I have observed in his character, and I was just like, I can't. Again, I'm very much on like, you will not embarrass me. I will not be embarrassed by your behavior, and I'm not. You're not, like, we are a reflection of each other. I'm not going to be out here acting crazy. Please don't act crazy. I don't want nothing to do with that. You're good. And there was another instance where I was with, casually went out with a guy a couple of times, and I had went back to his house. And I didn't want to sleep with him. I just wanted to chill. But he was being real pushy. And I was just like, it's every woman has, again, when we're talking about, every woman has had a moment where it's like, there's sometimes when you be like, let me just give him some so that way he don't take it, right? It's a horrible way. But a lot of women have been in that position of like, if I don't give it willingly, this might not end well for me. And I was having those thoughts of like, I don't know if I want, I kind of just want to, watch this show and a little joke I wasn't really expecting. And as I'm saying this, in my mind, I see a pew pew, right? I see it. I see it, and I sit up straight in the bed and I go, you got a weapon in here? And he walks over to the dresser and he opens it and he pulls out the same thing that I just seen.
You see?
He never told me that he had a weapon.
Girl, not you. She has
the sight.
I said,
not you tapped in.
I said, well, I gotta get up early. Let me go home because it's getting late. He was like, no, you can stay. I already knew. I said, girl, you already said you ain't want to do nothing. You already seen that there's a weapon. What you gonna do, right? And I'm like, oh, exactly. I can't stay here. I have to go home. And we have
how many men would have stayed.
But and again, and what I don't know, I could not say what this man wasn't gonna do if I would have stayed. I can't say that I would have fell asleep and woke up with something in my face, whether it was a weapon or an appendage. I don't know what I would have woken up to. So I would go home. I went home. I took myself home. I went home. And years later, the man was like, oh, I never understood why you didn't talk to me no more. And I told him, I said, well, when we first met, you told me you didn't believe in all that spiritual stuff. So I couldn't tell you that I had a premonition and I seen something. Right. You wasn't going to believe me. It didn't matter anyway. I already was going to make my decision. I said I was going to go home and that was that. Know? And again, that I was a person that has that type of thing of I can lay down and have a dream about you and I can know too much. And now the thrill is gone. I can't even in good faith move forward with this situation because I already know that something bad is on the other end. That does not make, again, when you're talking about romance, you have to have a certain level of delusion in order for it to truly work.
You have to.
You have to. Be a
there is no way
delusional about something. You got to just let it go a little bit. And I don't have that now. I don't have that. That's out the window. That's done for me.
And I see, and I see the benefit of like when people say ignorant is bliss. Now I'm not a person who don't
that
like
makes some more sense now.
Yes,
no, I get it. I totally understand what that means.
Yeah, like listen, as much as ignorant, I prefer the truth no matter how uncomfortable it is. But that's why people have to be delusional because there is no way, even with me, like I'm very particular, always have been. So even though we arrived at the same destination, at the end of the day, I might as well be celibate because I'm not doing anything. I don't call it that. I like to just leave because we have, my upbringing was very, very tight. So I'm very aware of keeping things flowing and not being black and white. So that's like a thing for me. So I stay open. I don't like to box myself in or call it anything. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. The risk is not worth the reward. So the amount of time it would take to get to know somebody, you know, that's why people end up going back to exes, because at least I know them, at least I them, at least there's a level of trust and self-respect there. But even then, it's like the risk is not worth what it may cost you, especially if it's not the right person and y'all mindsets are different. So that happened to me. Even I'm just like, it's not worth the risk. And I'm not, unfortunately, not able to pretend that I don't see. So I love that not only you saw it, but you recognized it and you did something about it.
And you listen.
Don't do that. And I started talking to an ex of mine, you know, a few months ago, also had a dream. Like sometimes my dreams is real, sometimes they crazy because I'm an astral traveler. So, and I had a dream that, like, it was the scenario. I don't remember all the details of the scenario, but what it was, I remember the feeling of the dream. I remember some of the details, but basically it was he was basically trying to, in the dream, he was trying to get me to compete with another girl, with another woman. Mind you, this is my ex, so it had been years since I saw him. So since we had talked and stuff like that. So I had this dream and I was like, normally I'm the ponder. I don't really say anything, but I was like, are you like talking to somebody else? Like, are you like, and we're talking about patriarchal men who believe in monogamy. You should be talking to nobody else. All right.
Right.
And so after that dream, I was like, okay. And then he like told me who, you know, what the situation was and all of that. But it's just like, for me too, it's just not worth it. Like, I don't want to have to guess what you're doing. I'm not going to do that. And because I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to go through your phone. I'm not going to do, the minute I feel like I have to go through your phone is the minute I pack my stuff and go.
Right.
I cannot, that kind of mindset, I have to be very, strict with my boundaries because people will try to take advantage of that. And at the end of the day, I'm responsible for my own self, and my responsible self said it's not worth it. A little bang bang here or there is not worth it. So we live in consumerism. There are plenty of tools we can purchase from Amazon. They can be there the next day. I'm good. That won't give me babies or diseases and won't lie.
Now, however, I will say I personally don't feel about I personally don't subscribe to celibacy until marriage, because listen, my dear sweet Nana, who I love to death, who's a God-fearing lady, she's the one who told me at 16, you try it before you buy it. Okay. And that did a lot for me. That was very transformative for me at 16.
Yeah, period.
I was
period.
Like, my church going grandmother telling me, and she was like, you need to try before you buy it. Okay, anybody telling you get married and then no, just try it at least once. Okay, before you get to it. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I can get with that. You know, I don't gotta test drive me for 6 months to figure it out. If you really want to talk about, let's get married, well, let me just see if everything is matching up. Because if it ain't, it can be some issues there. And that's the other thing too. I think like it is good as women to have a certain level of experiences or whatever, so that it's good for you. Not and you can't be on some like, I have to be pure and I have to do this, because then it's like you don't know what you're getting into. You know, and you should know your body, and you should know what you like, and you should know what you're comfortable with. And, it's all of these things, like there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that, I'm very grateful that I had my time of exploration or whatever in my teens and early 20s and all of that stuff. But like I said, as I got older, for me personally, it just was not worth it. And I'm gonna be honest, like, a lot of the times, if you really think about some of the experiences that you may have had, you think about, well, it was a good time because I'm a good time, right? Like I can't say that, oh my God, there was some man that knocked my socks off and rocked my world. Like, some of the best men, I'm gonna be honest, and some of the best times that I've had with men have not been men who were like super well and down, all that. It was because I had an emotional connection with them, because they respected me so much, because they loved on me so, like, it wasn't about, you know, all of these bells and whistles. It was about, there was an emotional connection, there was a respect there was tenderness, right? Like, that was not something that was just gonna happen with somebody that I just happened to meet off the street. That I wasn't gonna get that, you know, and that's okay, right? And like, there was times when it was like, oh, you know, I had, you know, a one night stand, and I could have did without, right? And it's like, it's nothing, and I don't have any shame about it, right? And I feel like, again, as women, sometimes, you know, a lot of women, you know, shortchange themselves because of the conditioning. Oh, if I experiment, if I do this thing, you know, that people are gonna, and it's like, girl, live your life, because live your life, enjoy yourself, you know, like, don't, again, be smart about what you're doing, and practice safe sex all the time. Like, I'm always going to be a big proponent of that. Like, whatever you're going to do, be safe, get tested, take your health seriously, all of that stuff. Ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask these men questions.
Don't be afraid. They ain't afraid
to ask the question. They ain't afraid to ask you.
Your entire body.
When last time you went to the doctor?
Let me see them papers.
What's that? What?
Give it to me.
Exactly. If you see the man don't drink water and he ain't been to the doctor in a month of Sundays, maybe you don't give him none. I'm sorry. Like, it's okay to be that discriminating. Like, it's okay. Yes. If that man don't have good dental hygiene, maybe he should not be putting his mouth on you. I'm sorry. Like, that's okay. Exactly. Like, it's okay. And you don't have to do things either. Like, I've realized, like, a lot of the things that younger women, I feel bad now because I see some of the stuff that they think that they have to do. It's like, you ain't got to do none of that. You know, you don't have to do all of that. You don't have to be all of this overly performative for these people, especially if they're not prioritizing your emotional safety, your physical well-being, and all of that stuff. Like, it's okay to it's okay to be like, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't do that.
I've done it. Felt like I've done laundry. This same ex done laundry and everything. I'm a different person. I say, you dumb. You should have locked me down back in the day when I was dumb. Now you're gonna spend the rest of your life chasing after me, because we both know I can't be caught. That's what you get. So listen, people can't listen to me. If you want to be in a relationship, don't listen to me, because I don't necessarily want to be in one. But at some point, it's not worth it, and we all end up being low-key celibate, because if you are smart and you are paying attention and you don't ignore flags, you're gonna be ignore red flags, you're gonna be, because you're not gonna have a choice. And so many women don't listen to their intuition, right? So many women would have seen the pew pew in their dreams and would have been brushed it off because their immediate needs, their immediate fulfillment desires was more important than their higher self speaking to them. So,
and also we've been socialized to ignore that anyway. Like, you know what I mean? You've been socialized to be like, well, you're crazy, you're emotional, like, you know. So in general, we don't honor our intuitive knowing. We honor more so our logical sense. So that is something that I had to learn in my journey of self-love, is honoring that inner voice that's just like, oh, you know something, even if there's no outward evidence of it, you're right. You don't need it.
You don't need proof.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yes, I don't need proof. Right. But that's why, like, the guy told you, oh, I didn't know you were spiritual. They don't want you to be spiritual. Exactly. Because if you spiritual and if you tapped in, they're not going to be able to get over on you. Because men are,
they can manipulate you if you know.
Yep. Men are also spiritual, even though they're not as tapped in. They can't be as tapped in as we are, but they're also spiritual. So they know. That's why he knew to take you on a date, even though he claimed everybody else he didn't take on dates. He probably won't get nothing. I don't believe he was getting nothing. He could have been. I'm just kidding. But if you that desperate, either you won't get nothing, or you have an addiction, and that's a whole nother problem.
What I'm saying. It's like, again, it goes back into like, how's your mentality about it? Why are you? Where are you putting your emphasis on it? Did you did this in hopes that you was gonna get something? Like, again, you didn't want me to figure that out, and you didn't want me to have my own agency about things either. I had another situation with an ex who we were back and forth for too long. You know, it was one of those things it shouldn't have been that long. We're back and forth. You know, the man deciding if he wanted to be with me or not. And the final straw was he came back and we was making, it was like, you know, it was like not even a couple of days of just talking and, you know, catching up. And I had a dream and I woke up in the dream and we were in the bed together and his eyes were closed. And I just asked him, I said, well, what's your intentions with me? And he goes, I don't have no intentions. Damn, stop asking. I was like, and I got up and I woke up to my phone buzzing and the man was texting, good morning. I said, oh Lord.
Oh, yeah.
I said, absolutely not. And I told him, and in typical Black man fashion, he goes, wow, that's crazy. Don't wow me.
Yeah. That's crazy.
You know what I said? You know it was true. You know it was true. You know it was true. He was like, that's so crazy that you would, you know, I had the same conversation with somebody else. It's so wild. That I was like, don't even try to BS me with the foolishness, sir. Like, I don't even care. Like, I'm cool on it. I'm cool as a freaking fan on it. I'm cool. It's okay. And yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like, damn, again, I could have been like, well, we have history and I love him. And
yep.
Oh my gosh. And then what?
Same.
And then how much?
And then what?
And then what? You know, when I'm really getting dragged through the mud, when I'm really getting my head knocked between the washer and dryer, then I'm gonna be mad at who? I'm like, the people don't try to tell me how many times my intuition, my higher self, the ancestors, the angels, like, okay, again. What are you gonna listen to, and based off what, you know? And so it's like those are the things that truly make me think about, you know, historically the women that lived on the edge of the town or whatever, with her in her hut with her, you know, her little herbs and her animals, and she mind her business. I understand those women more. I understand why they lived on the edge of the town. I get it. I totally understand it, and I'm not mad. You know, I don't feel like, oh gosh, I don't have this thing that everybody else is pining after, and there's something wrong with me. I said, I know what I have. I know who I am, and I know that any man that comes towards me has to be in a. My uncle told me a couple of years ago. He goes, the energy that you have, you are the type of woman that a man knows he has to respect, and a lot of men don't want to have to respect anybody that much.
That part.
And that's why that was a real thing. I was like, damn, that's crazy. He was like, I'm telling you, as a man, they know, they look at you, they could tell they can't do certain things. They know they gotta show They ain't trying to do all of that. That's too much.
They tapped in too.
Take it personal if somebody don't want it. It's nothing to do with you. It's about how that man knows that he needs to show up. And I get it. It's like, listen, I have a lot of men. I have a lot of male, you know, men that are like in the orbit, you know, and it's like they know, like, sir, you can't never, please. You've been holding the candle for me. It's been 20 years. It's never gonna happen. All right, like, that's okay. It's okay. I respect it. It's okay. But I'm never, you know, I don't necessarily feel like, again, I don't necessarily feel undesirable or anything like that. I just know that I'm living my life in a certain way, that this is life on my terms, and that's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of stuff that I'm willing to compromise on, because I just can't. I've already been there. I already compromised. I already been, you know, all the way in the far extreme, and been in an abusive situation, and been, you know, whether that's emotionally abusive or physically abusive or, you know, sexually abusive, like those things of reproductive abuse. Like, there's like so many ways that could not honor and cherish you. That's very scary. You know, and it's not moving in fear. It's me being genuinely honest with, like, okay, if this man has a deficit in certain areas, he's more likely to inflict harm on me because he's unhealed in these areas. And I can't take that on. I'm not a therapist. I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not a social worker. I'm not none of those people. I don't want to be those people. You need to go take that up with mommy. You need to go take that up with your pops. You need to go to the church. I don't know, whatever you need to do, call the lady, do whatever you got to do, you know? And again, if they're not willing to do that work, I can't take it on. Like, I have unconditioned myself from feeling like, oh, I need to save. I'm not saving anybody. You know? I ain't saving nobody. But when I think about certain things about, oh, you know, do I want a family and all of this stuff? Again, if it happens, it happens. I also have a sisterhood with my sister friends, where we already have a pact with each other. Like, listen, girl, we can get a house together and raise some kids together. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that village option of being like, listen, I can have the baby, because even if we also listen, whichever one of us have the baby first, we'll pitch in. We'll do what we got to do. We're sisters. That's how we handle it. We're gonna raise the baby together, whether that man want to act right or not. And I think that if more women look at it from that standpoint, then maybe they'll feel a little better about if a baby does come. You don't have to feel like, oh gosh, it has to work out with this man.
Right.
Otherwise, I have nothing. I get that. I'm definitely afraid of that. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. At this age, to get to this age and have some man play in my face, I might burn his mother's house down. He play around.
Period. Period. Like, it's like, is it even worth
How many
it?
houses going up in flames because you want to play around? Whoosh. No. Let me not do that. There are plenty of children that need a good home. All right. I will adopt.
Same. If I change my mind, I'll adopt. They won't come out of my uterus, but I'll adopt, because there are plenty of children who can use the help and who could use a good home. I'll adopt, but I'm not. No, it did, like you said, at this age, for me to be playing around like I'm in my 20s, absolutely not playing my face, because then I feel insulted.
I'm a snap. I don't have that flexibility that I had in my 20s where I could be, oh, I love him. I ain't got none of that.
No.
That's all gone. I'm going to the cards. I'm going to the table. I'm going to the mat. I'm like, is it all right if I put a little gasoline on Thompson's house? And they be like, well, they didn't say you were gonna get caught. All right, I'm gonna do enough witchcraft to keep me out of jail, and I'm going. Don't play with me.
And that's why I don't do it, because I also know I do the shadow work. I'm very in touch with my dark side. And I know I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not going to lie to anybody. So if I want to avoid that, it's my responsibility to be responsible about who I invite in my life, especially when we're talking about the energy from intercourse, because that is serious. If you're tapped in and you're doing that, like, and it's very frustrating. Even there can be decent dudes, just the condition, it just kind of sucks of men and patriarchy, because you would think that a man that comes across get the opportunity to be with a very spiritual woman, if he was smart and respected women and the matriarchy, you would choose her. You would give her everything she asked for, because she will elevate you in that same psychic gift that you have to be able of sight. Sir, do you know how a gift like that would elevate you if you act right? If you could be trusted, but because they're so conditioned in patriarchy, they're trying to reach what they think other races of men have, and particularly white men. You don't know your position, even though you're still in the position technically, because you don't run your households. You're not there. Really, white men don't either. They don't be knowing nothing about their kids and nothing about nothing, and they bitch their wives and stuff. Don't let them lie to you. They wives be homeless and all other kind of stuff. They dip.
Or they'll off the whole family, the dog too.
The whole thing. Listen, so it's like, go play with somebody else. I don't even have time for this. I know I might snap. I know if I say that you want to turn abusive, if you think you gonna see tomorrow, and it might not be tomorrow.
I'm more scared
with
for
me,
the other party. That's where I'm at. But when I was younger, I used to be scared for my safety. Now I'm scared.
Yeah. And I
might not be able to reel myself back in enough time. And
now,
and I'm like, what happened? No,
because the programming,
the energy.
I am very much aware of my own power in that sense. Yes. It's like, listen, I can't be out here just laying down with everybody, because I don't want you. You're not going to be stalking my life. You're not going to be making me, being weird. I don't want to have to change my phone number. I don't want to have to do any of those things. Like, and this society does not condition women to think of themselves as powerful. So that's why it's hard for a lot of women to embrace that of like,
but that's the spell. That's the spell. Or that's the problem they have with the witches and the spiritual women, is because they can whip up something and you won't see tomorrow.
Right.
That's the problem that they have. And when you're in your 20s, at least the patriarch, the ignorant, the naivete of that can sort of Because
Mm-hmm.
my moment was when I was after high school. So I was about 18 or 19. I think I was 19. And I went up and called myself being fast, And I went to this guy's house who was like a few years older than me, and more than a few. I think he was like, I was 19. I think he was like 26.
Mm-hmm.
Appropriate. And he was like doing the touchy feely, I'm trying, mind you, I'm deep into, I got almost another decade of being a V. So I'm very much a V. So he's like touching and feeling. I'm like, okay, I kissed a little bit, and then he going too far. Same thing, right? Trying to do too much. And then he was like, if I could take it if I wanted. I said, oh.
Not him coming out and just saying it.
I said, oh. You think I was ever in another dude house by myself? Hell no.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I started scanning the room for stuff I could use as a weapon.
Right.
And I did the same thing you did. I was like, because luckily I was being sneaky because I was raised in a religious house. So this was after work, and he had to take me back to work anyway, back to my job to like finish. I had picked up like an extra shift or something. I was like, my manager just called. I got to go back to work. Take me back to work. Mm-hmm. And so like he ended up taking me back to work shortly after that. I said, my ass will never be in another situation like that again.
Mm-hmm.
So I too have been in situations like that. We all have. I said, okay. I was a little scared, but I ain't never that scared.
Right.
Because if it's you or me, I'm going to do my best to make sure it's you.
Exactly. It's not
so I know. So and I'm saving. I'll save a dude. I'm gonna save you from yourself because this is not what you want. You want me to be somebody else. And not only am I a Virgo, I'm my mother's daughter. I like a plan. I will plan your offing for the next 2 years, and you won't see it coming. So to avoid that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to.
I'm gonna just stay home. I'm gonna just stay home and mind my business and not. I don't have the luxury of being naive of what I'm capable of. But then women who don't, it's within all of us. I'm not special. It is within all of us. But if you don't know it's there, that's how people end up doing things. And now you wake up one day and you're in jail for the rest of your life because you didn't do your due diligence to get yourself out of a situation. You didn't have foresight. Foresight, you see, because something you had said, Nikki, about the way, like just the kiss alone, the way he was acting about that kiss. How many women, 90% of women would have ignored that and would not have did the calculation that he a little too desperate for it. And I know the end of this looked like you trying to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't afford, I can't afford to be knowing what I know now, because now that I know, I'm responsible for my actions. At least when I was younger,
you don't know. You don't know. Right? You don't know. But like once you get to a certain point and you know, and that's why, that's the societal conditioning. And that's why, I don't fault younger women for, their ego being like super or whatever, because it's like that's what they society conditions young women to ignore what the older women are saying. Like, she washed up, bitter, she
like they're jealous of you.
Yeah, they jealousy of you for this and the third. But when you get on the other side of things, you're like, oh my God, like I ain't had no business being with that grown ass man.
I could have got
in that man's house. I ain't had no business doing any of that. That man was a predator. Like you to make some calculations, and a lot of men don't like to admit that they participate in predatory things, right? They don't want to admit that. They don't, even some of listen, I had this conversation with my own father, all right? Again, a Jamaican man of a certain age. Nobody gonna tell a Jamaican man of a certain age that he's too old for anything, okay? He's dressed like he's 25. He's gonna be going out with somebody that's younger than his kids. It's like, it's too much. It's like, sir, you're doing too much. And me and my pops definitely have clashed. Like we've bumped heads. And I definitely was like, listen, he got all upset with me talking about, oh, you don't agree with my lifestyle. I was like, sir, there's a reason why you're not going out with women your age, okay? Because they're going to tell you that you're full of it, all right? You're going out with a woman who don't know enough.
Of course. Got
daddy issues, all right? That's crazy, and I don't respect it. And we used to bump heads a lot about it. And that was also something that helped me heal certain things with men and break, but like not be so disillusioned or like so infatuated with men, realizing like, my father is a man, you know. I've been in the barbershop hearing all types of stuff. I done worked with men, so it's like I can't delude myself enough to think that, oh my gosh, they're not gonna do me like that. Like, no,
right.
I don't know what that man's gonna do when he's out of shot, like out of earshot and out of my sight. He could be doing, you know, God knows what, and that's okay. I have to be, you know, I have to understand that there's certain things that I have to keep my eye out for and my ear out for, and it's not, you know, nobody is so different, it's so unique that they're, you know, they're able to just like totally hide certain things. Like, no, right? That's why you give certain things enough time. That's why, you know, there is a method to the old heads madness of being like, don't be doing too much too soon. You got to give things a little bit of time so that way you can just observe and just see what's going on. And if he's acting in a certain way, then all right, you can kind of, you know, work with it. If you don't know this man off rip, you don't know what he's capable of, and you got to be honest about that. And you got to take, if you're going to take that risk, then understand that this is a risk that you're taking. Don't be so blindsided, and don't be so desperate for affection and companionship and all of these things. You put all your eggs in this man's basket, and then he's just going to run you ragged, and now you out here looking crazy. It's just not that serious, you know? And I don't feel like, oh my God, there's no good men. I don't feel like that, right? I don't have that.
Right.
I definitely understand that we are in a society that is conditioning them to behave in a certain way, and is not necessarily giving them too much incentive on a societal level to be better men, right? Like they could be better. The same way how us as Black women, we've had to be better because of the situations. Like, we have to be more educated. We have to be more ambitious, because otherwise we're not gonna have nothing. If we sit around and wait for somebody to give us something, we might never get it. That's not the same with men. Men can coast through this. They could coast, and if they are picky about certain things, they can get a woman that's gonna do everything.
Right.
Do all the stuff, have the kids, do everything. Don't even have to like her, because society would be like, you don't gotta like her. She's an appliance. Like, you don't like your you don't like your dishwasher. You don't like your, you know, or you might love your car.
But
you might love your car, but you don't love the washing machine. Like, please, the washing machine is a means to an end, right? And again, as a woman, you can't just be like, oh my gosh, what can I do? Because it's like, I'm not an appliance. I'm I'm a person with needs and desires, and I have my own autonomy, and I'm not just here to perform whatever this man thinks I'm supposed to do. And that's something that a lot of women have a hard time with, and I get it. Like I said, I try to be understanding. I understand it is not easy to break out of that. But at the same time, I'm just like, girl, I'm gonna need you to tighten up, all right? Because tighten up. You know, that you can pick better. But that's the thing too. When men say pick better, but they don't realize if us as women collectively pick better, a lot of men would not be getting picked.
They don't realize that.
They don't realize that.
They going to.
That's why we're talking about celibacy, and we're like, actually, we're not in the minority. I know a lot of women that is not even on purpose practicing celibacy. It's just situations like, well, shit, it's just what's going on right now. It's just easier for me to.
They about to learn. They about to learn. They about to learn the hard way.
Loneliness epidemic. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's not a woman's loneliness epidemic.
It's a man's,
because we have friends.
Loneliness epidemic.
We have friends. We have nothing feels more fulfilling to me than hanging out with my friends, getting dinner, getting drinks, laughing and talking, watching TV, and kikiing. There's nothing more fulfilling to me than that, and traveling around the world. There's nothing more fulfilling to me than that. So, and a lot of men don't have that because a lot of men don't have friends, because having too many friends don't make you you're not masculine. Now there are men that went to college, men that, you know, in certain communities are more so used to, but there are a lot of men who don't have friends.
They don't have no kind of friends.
Or even with my ex, he would say he doesn't have friends. Like, it's almost like it made him feel less than a man to call them his friends, but you go hanging out with them. You go spend hours and hours doing this. Why do you not just want to call them your friends? So you removing, not even wanting them not even wanting to call them your friend is removing a level of intimacy that men need with each other, that women are comfortable having with each other.
Right.
So and then you look for certain emotional fulfillments from women that is not women's job to fulfill. You actually need to look for that in somebody else, but we don't have those issues because we have our friends. But that takes effort. How much, you have to spend time with your friends. You got to check in on them. If you don't want to do all of that, you're going to wake up in a loneliness epidemic, but that's not my problem. They don't understand how we can be happy by ourselves.
No, they don't get it. Like, they truly don't understand. Like, oh, you must be talking to somebody else. Like, babe, you competing with me for me. There's no other man. Trust me. It's me. It's me.
That's who you competing with. You're competing with my peace and solitude, and I don't play about that. So any little thing that disturbs that disturbs it in a certain way, I'm out. I'm gonna leave before the party is over, before it get too bad.
The reason why we're able to do that is because we have the ability, like after relationships, it's more common for a woman to dive deep into her self-work, her shadow work, and starting to work on herself, go to therapy, start dealing with what her flaws are and start strengthening herself. Like after relationships, men, they don't do that. What they do is they find the next person to replace that girl without even thinking about what happened in a relationship. What did I do wrong? What could I have changed? They don't do that. They don't do that, analyzing thing after their relationship. They just move on to the next person. And when they do that, they move on to someone who will treat them better than the one that they just lost.
It's
so basically
parasitic.
Trying to, find someone better or someone who treats him better. Usually a woman who's more naive, because usually a lot of times when people break up is because of that difference. One person's more awakened than the other. We're not growing at the same pace. So now we're disagreeing, we're clashing, and now we break up, and this person is continually growing while the man is staying the same until he finds someone who's on his level or below, who's not as awakened as you are, who's not going to hold him accountable, who's not going to challenge him, who's not going to, make him keep his word. Like, you know what I mean? So in general, the reason why men are going through that loneliness epidemic is because they don't work on themselves. They don't activate the feminine within themselves, to understand themselves wholly. So they can't be by themselves. So them being by themselves is actually more torture, because then they have to deal with their own thoughts. You know what I mean? And they can't make friends because they all believe themselves to be at the top of the pyramid of manhood. They all believe that they are alpha of men in general. And because every man is striving to climb that ladder of manhood to be the top, they tend to degrade other men around them. So even if they have friends, they all think that they're the choice pick out of their friend group.
I never even thought about that.
So it's like so much that goes into why men are suffering under the patriarchy, and it ain't women's fault at all. You know what I mean? They do it to themselves. They make this environment where it's like you limit your own being.
Yep.
You limit your own being, and then you try to get in relationships with women and call yourself someone who can love them, but you don't know how, but you don't know how to love yourself.
No, you gotta. A man can only love you as much as he loves himself, and he can only love you as much as he respects himself. And it goes both ways. And I don't like to victim blame. When it comes to people being on the receiving end of abuse and things like that. But there is a certain equation, there is certain things, variables that come into play that will predispose a situation to become abusive if you're not paying attention, right? And from my experience, if a woman's self-worth is low, if her self-awareness is low, she's more susceptible to be in a situation that is unhealthy. That doesn't necessarily mean it's inherently abusive, but it can get It can get because there's certain checks and balances that she's not putting in place because she's not thinking of herself in that way. And then the situation is going so far, and you're like, oh my God. And then the people are like, that's why even some of the smartest women, like some of the most intelligent women, you will be surprised to see what's happening in their personal lives and their relationships. Because And in their minds, they're surprised too, because they're like, I'm smart, I have a degree, I'm good at my job, I'm a great family member, I'm a great daughter, I'm a great mom. How the hell did I end up in this situation? And it's like, there are things, you know, that again, especially as Black women, we're not all the way conditioned to see ourselves as powerful beings, you know, inherently. Like it starts when you're young. It starts with very young. It starts as kids.
Yes.
You know, for people to like, for your family to respect your opinion and to respect your decisions and to encourage you to have passions, and like all of that stuff starts very young. That's why I'm telling you, I went to school with girls. They were working, right? Like they were like, I gotta go home because I gotta cook, clean, do this and the third. You're like, damn, girl, you got time to do your homework. It's like, well, you know, if I don't have the food ready in this time, I'm gonna get in trouble. And it's like, and their brother didn't have to do anything. You know, their brother was just existing. And it's like, meanwhile, you here, you're cooking, washing, taking care of kids, taking care of this one, that one. You got to be chased. You can't go out. You can't do this. Those are the girls that ended up pregnant because they were so excited to just get a little taste of freedom, a little taste of something. The first time they got out, they went, wow. And it was like, well, I can see how that happened. Meanwhile, there was other people who parents let them have a little bit of freedom, let them do a little bit of this, let them do a little bit of that. And they were able to come into adulthood more even and more tempered and more like pressed for everything. That's why I'm just like, I understand. You know, I totally understand how some, you know, women, if you're so tight, if everything is so strict and so stringent coming up, my best friend in high school was like that. She was, you know, she was everything was so like this, and then when she got out there, it was like, girl, calm down. Calm down, you're doing too much. Yeah. You know, and it's like not to shame her, but it was like I understood. Like she was just like so. She was
sheltered and
crazy. Yeah, it's like sheltered. And I mean, and she was, you know, a suburb. She was a girl from the suburbs. She loved them hood ass niggas. It was like, girl, could you stop with the hood? You don't know nothing about you grew up in a nice house, okay? You grew up in a nice house with two loving parents. What you doing?
Guilty and sin.
Literally, I'm talking about like you'd be like, this dude is. I'm scared, and I grew up in the hood. Like, what are you doing? Where'd you find
I think we all had a taste of a little hood sausage. You know what I mean?
Like, you reading too many of them hood novels and telling romanticizing that stuff. It's like, no, I grew up around here. Like the man that you want. You want a nice guy that lives in your neighborhood. Why are you coming over here? You're driving in your car, okay, from Queens all the way to Brooklyn to the back of the hood. How did you meet this man? Right? And it's like, but again, you were so sheltered. You were so like
forbidden stuff. Like, oh, I can't have. I'm gonna go get that.
It's like, I get it.
Wow.
Like,
I feel like I'm an anomaly. Like I just didn't react like the way, because my sister had kids, her first kid at like 22 and stuff like that, and like. So I don't think the majority of people who live a very strict lifestyle. My saving grace was just being able to recognize and listen to my intuition about what I saw about, you know, boys at the time. Yeah, my discernment. So that caused me to like put a big, thick wall up against when it came to dating and when it came to boys and men and stuff. But so I don't think the majority of them like wild out when they get in college and do those things. I didn't because I already knew, so I couldn't with a clear conscience like put myself in those kinds of predicaments. So yeah. No.
Wow. Well, I'm just like I love this conversation and I love both your takes. I think to conclude, you know, I feel like the one thing that I got from this conversation is that the ideal Black love is self-love, you know, doing what is best for yourself, staying in tune with your spirituality, because that's your protection while we navigate this world in a space where women are not valued in general, you know, and making sure that we uphold our value in spaces with anyone who comes into our lives, you know. So that can look different ways. Actually, that can look different ways. There's no one size fit all solution, but honoring self is the biggest thing. So the path can end up looking like celibacy, or it can look like, you know, dating for resources, or it can look like interracial, or or it can look like dating women. Like, I just feel like once you realize who you are, and you start loving on yourself, and you start realizing, well, what is it that I require from this experience in life, then you're guided through yourself. And I think that's what I got from this conversation. And I love hearing like you guys' experiences and things. Like, very, very amazing spirits, both of you. Yeah. So if you have any closing thoughts just to add on, you can go ahead. No closing.
Okay, well, I'll go. I mean, I don't really have any closing thoughts. Just, I agree. Your closing thoughts. Ultimately, self-love is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Take that journey because you want to get to know yourself and want to be in alignment, not so that you hope you find a man. And then hopefully, if you do take that journey, you'll be able, if you come across a man that is worthy of your time and your energy, you'll recognize it because you're so tapped into yourself that you'll be tapped in to his energy, and you'll be able to see things for what they are. And if you can do that, go on, my child, go into the dating world with all the information and all of the knowledge to be able to pick and choose and know when to leave before the party is over. If you have to, ideally you won't have to, but you'll be able to spot it. If you take that journey for the right reasons, you'll be able to spot a good person or a person that's in alignment with you. So yeah,
I definitely agree with that sentiment, with both sentiments, that self-love is, the key, and all parts of yourself, like your shadow, your higher self, like all of those things, and working on integrating those things and truly loving yourself and being accepting of you as a person. Like you said, Danny, not to, in hopes of getting a man, like you still like truly thinking, okay, what is best for me, and understanding that you are an individual, and, as long as you're open to what is truly going to work for your lifestyle, be that polyandry, be that, being queer, be that being celibate, whatever that is, it's not for anybody else's validation. It's about how you truly feel and what works for your spirit. But you have to know what your spirit is. You have to truly get in touch with that. And that is a journey that's worth taking, and I think that that's something I truly would like more young women and women in general to just truly take on their spiritual journey as their personal spiritual journey. And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's journey, and it doesn't have to look like anything that you've ever seen before. We're all individuals. Everybody's on their own path. And once you accept yourself, truly love and accept yourself, I do believe that you will be able to connect with people that make sense and that are in alignment with you. So yeah, that's my final thoughts.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate your energy. And thank you, everyone, for coming in and just spending some time with us today. So all people in the chat, love you all. And I will see you all next week. So thanks, everybody. You enjoy the rest of your day.
bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.